Welcome back, everybody. It's once again been too long. I know I keep saying we're going to do this more regularly. Just deal with it. This is what you get. This is how we are. So, anyways, thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening. Just down to 3 small town guys tonight. The other 2 couldn't join us, so you're stuck with just myself and Andrew and Tim.
And Tim.
And Tim.
And Andrew. No Bugatti, just chickens.
He's a much better Andrew Tate than me.
Yeah, he's rolling in the bucks. Buck.
And a few quackers now. We just got some ducks, some Muscovies.
Yeah, I heard. My wife's all jealous. She wants some ducks.
Town should fix that.
Well, technically, if I have them as pets and they're named, they're not really farm animals.
Mine all came with it.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what they are, but I think one was Oreo. Nice lady. Gave them to me. Yep, she didn't want to look after them anymore or something.
So are you going to use them for food, or are you just collecting eggs, or are they just kind of a animal that's hanging out and...
Right now they're just pellet burners, but I think they will start laying come the springtime.
Okay.
And if they fail to do so, then they may become meat birds. But hey, there's your warning, girls.
Duck à l'orange.
But they're good, healthy size. Like they're bigger than a Canadian goose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're solid.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they're nice. They're
I mean, you can always, I don't know, you think you let them wander around in the summer to get rid of bugs, or?
No, we got foxes, we got coyotes, we got badgers, we got everything that wants to kill a chicken will also kill a duck.
Fair enough.
Crazy.
Do some more pest control.
And then I got to figure out some sort of outdoor pond. They eat their food in the water.
Yeah, they definitely need the water.
Yeah, so right now they just got a couple of dog dishes heated. And now I've got some nice ice patches in the chicken. So, makes collecting eggs a little more fun. Yeah, thankfully it's not nice smooth ice. It's not like Zamboni, but definitely that's for sure.
Got to be a little more careful now. Yeah, we actually just picked up a new rescue dog. Since our dog Paisley passed away, wife's been missing her a lot. She was actually shocked at how. So, and, it is weird. For 12 years, you got this dog that greets you at the door all the time, barking, losing her shit, and now you come home and which is strange.
I can sympathize with you on that one. We're still missing our Otis. For those that are keeping track, he never did come home, and I miss that helicopter tail at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, it's always a tough one when you get it's bad enough when you got to put him down, but when they just disappear, because you never know. Like, did somebody pick him up? Is he still okay somewhere? Or
Well, and that's our hope and our thought is that he was picked up. Just the way he played with the other dog, and they were both wandered off that day. The only way those dogs would get separated is if a vehicle came by and he got into the vehicle, because our other dog, Charlie, would never get into a vehicle, whereas Otis would. So Otis probably ended up in a vehicle with somebody. Maybe they were, concerned citizen looking for, taking care of a dog that was, out in the wilderness, so to speak. So maybe that's our hope. We still got flyers and social media posts and things like that out there.
Yeah, like he was microchipped though, wasn't he?
He is, but then when I went to report that number to our vet, they're like, "Oh, we can't pull up that number in our system." So I was like,
"Oh, really?"
But then when you Google that number, it's on PetSafe, and it comes up with our profile and all the details. Okay. But a vet in Canada, I guess, can't look up that number because it was from a microchip company in the States. So there is a possibility that somebody who did pick him up could have taken to a vet and the microchip wouldn't have read through their system.
They just couldn't have found
the
number or whatever.
Yeah, so that's even more disheartening because then that means that the chance of you getting him back is even more slim. They'd have to re-microchip or re-look for him in the microchip system years later after they've, been taking care of this lovely dog of theirs. So it's missing my buddy Otis.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
But hey, way to start the show on a high note.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Let's just
Thanks,
bring
guys.
us all down. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Okay. I'm not crying. I'm just leaking.
I'm not crying. You're crying. Well, I mean, you guys kind of went through things with trying to get your animals.
Yeah, we did. We had one aggressive, adorable, beautiful, but would just have moments snapped and put.
Yeah, almost like some sort of a schizophrenia almost.
Yeah, but we put her through a whole bunch of tests and tried to get her centered to try and check see if they could do it. They just couldn't find what was causing it. It just turned out. But then we obviously the cats. This dog, she's fun. She was lovable, adorable, fun, playful. Ziva loves her, rolls all over. And but yeah, she's not used to being cooped up with the cold. And and when it is cold, she doesn't mind going out to go run around and play and bounce. She tries to sneak out and go. Then you have to go chasing after her in the ice. It's good fun. But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that once we get our new one adjusted, used to everything over friends' dogs.
What's her name?
Florence. Not the name we would have picked, but it's what she answers to.
Okay,
You go with the flow?
We go with the flow.
I was going to say, if her name is Flo, does that mean she only comes once a month when you call?
Well, what's really awkward is when I'm outside and I'm like, come Flo, come Flo.
Does she have a little rubber hat?
Not that I'm aware of, but...
Speaking of swimmers, so how many more months for your little one there, Tim?
It's supposed to be next month.
Ah.
But, and she was checking today, kind of, she's been feeling a little bit heavier and heavier, and baby's sitting quite low, so she's thinking might be sooner next month. Maybe. She's scheduled for end of next so far, but we'll see. We're going to the doctor at the end of the visit or the new midget.
One and or the other.
Yeah.
Well, wish you all the best with that. Hope it goes.
So too, should be quite into the current, but trying to say my mom.
Oh, it's always a little bit of a hassle
Well,
when you get
it
that.
depends. Like if you present it as like it's her baby, that sometimes that helps. And our kids were, except for the older ones, when it came to our youngest one, it's also our last child. So gotta have the baby. But so speaking of kids, you were talking about some sort of theory with twins or triplets. What were you going on with it?
So I had a bit of a brain fart that had been building up on me. But one theory I've got is that if we go with the whole thing, we're all just programmed. Whatever twins essentially would be duplicate coding, slight to test and where things could go different or what things could be different.
Or like a copy and paste error 120 times?
Yeah, exactly. It worked the same for quadruplets, triplets, that type of thing. That's still a working theory on that side of it, but I got a different one is a little bit more in depth, where working on the multiple timelines or the multiverse where there's twins. Let me go back a little bit. There's been studies, I'm sure you guys have heard a couple of studies where they took twins, I think it was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, separated twins at birth and tested over the years to see how different they grew up as chain. And there was a few cases, and especially one that was quite famous. They grew up, and the families that adopted them, the same name, they both married a woman that was named the same name. They both got divorced from that, married another woman with the same names, and they both had kids named almost identical, just slightly different spelling. And they only met each other in their 40s.
I was going to say, so they were separated
at birth.
Their whole life
and
kind of thing.
They never knew themselves, they never knew each other, they never knew anything like it. Now, because that popped up, my brain started thinking of the idea of the multiverse. What if there was a mistake or an accident where instead of taking essentially your variant and putting it in a different timeline, they ended up in the same timeline, in the same womb. Now, same thing with a triplet and that type of thing. Now, the thought of, okay, sometimes you have unidentical twins.
Mm-hmm. Fraternal twins, yeah.
Okay. But what about it's the same concept, but the variation of the change that would have happened between one multiverse to the other. So sometimes, for example, you put on a blue shirt or a red shirt, it's a tiny change. It's not much changes. But, for example, now a different parent or, something completely different changes and you have a boy or a girl, or you have, a different look or a completely different style or that type of thing. Or what if some of them might be miscarriages, baby deaths, things like that are course corrected, but in one universe.
Well, I was just thinking maybe it's abortions in the other multiverse.
Exactly.
And it spawns them up in this one.
Essentially, because they have the theory of that there are certain, no matter how many multiverse or verse or universes there is a universe where you don't exist. What if that universe that you don't exist has that because you're existing in a different timeline with yourself? Or your doppelganger essentially was born in the same place as you.
Yeah, I've always found the doppelganger theory really interesting because there's so many people that, there's Facebook groups of people that just look identical but have never, there's no relationship. They live half a world apart.
And so another one, not twins, I believe. I think they were just brothers that were separated at a young age. The boxing announcer and the MMA announcer. The buffer.
Yeah.
Right? So they literally ended up in the same career path. I don't think they were twins, though. I think they were just brothers.
Yeah, I think they were just brothers.
That were separated basically from really young child.
Yeah.
And, both literally ending up in the same profession.
And,
both being
same
what I
sort
would
of
amount
style
to
of announcing.
Similar styles of announcing, but also superstars in their own right for that type of employment. Literally, how many people could you name in the world other than those two guys that
were ring
that
announcers.
are memorable?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's an interesting theory. I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued.
I'd be curious to see how far it could actually go because there's so many different ways you can think about different things that actually coincide. I know they say that twins are completely different. One is this, and a lot of them have different personalities, but there's a lot of connection between them. And not to say that they're not brother and sister because they grew up as brother and sister, or brother and brother, or whatever, but that might just be the variation of them in a different timeline.
It's an interesting concept.
Intersecting, could be. It's weird. Just kind of messes with my brain, and now it doesn't shut up.
Yeah, that's what the weed's for.
That's why I say it doesn't want to shut up.
No wacky tobacco here.
Now it's a vape pen. I'm all modern. It'd probably kill me faster, but
maybe it's just reproductions of the soul catcher. Or just getting sent back now.
the soul catcher.
Completely lost me. I have no idea what you're on about.
Yeah, I'm.
Okay, so the moon, right?
Oh God.
I'm sure he helped. So there's a theory of there's an alien race that is essentially recycling souls.
Oh yes. Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
And there's
now.
that one supposed item sitting on the moon that they believe is the soul cat. When you die, your soul goes there and gets recycled and sent back to Earth in a different form, or something, essentially playing on reincarnation and so on.
Which I can see. My question is, if reincarnation is real, how does our population keep increasing? Like, where are the new souls coming from?
The other timelines.
The twin theory. Yeah.
Do you see what
Now
I mean?
we're back to the twin theory here.
Do you see how it just keeps rolling back? I'm going to write a paper.
Well, we'll see if anybody as important as Watt is listening if the twin theory starts kicking off.
Well, and I think you're right on that perspective, because if you look at human growth, essentially it is a hockey stick curve that is like off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout most of human history, I think the planet had, was it a couple million people, or less than a billion for sure.
Yeah, and it was pretty steady.
Yeah, for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
That they know of, though, because there's also
well,
a lot that they
based
don't know
on
at this
records
point.
that we have.
Pre-flood
Yeah.
or post-flood.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
flood? Mud flood or...
Yeah. Post Younger Dryas.
Well, the Younger Dryas is an undisputed, archaeologists have determined, yes, there was a cataclysmic event about 9 to 10,000 years ago. And, so I mean, that's not up for dispute. What was predating it and what was post-dating it and some of the migration patterns of humanity after that.
Yeah, I was looking at some articles now where they've basically totally disavowed, if you want to say, the African origin stories now. There's too many inconsistencies and evidence that they're finding other countries, other continents, that it's not possible.
There's a lot
Really?
of
So they're
evidence.
thinking it spawned multiple places at the same time?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, that's kind of the theory, that it just sort of blossomed and all of a sudden here we are. Yeah.
There's a lot of different points and theories, like the land bridge where they all walked their way down, but they're finding evidence that's a lot older than that, shows there was life in the Americas long before that bridge was.
Yeah, what was
around.
that new First Nations site they found up in northern Saskatchewan here?
Oh, and
And
they
it's
pegged
like
it at 30,000.
14,000 years or something,
Oh,
or
okay.
is it older?
Well, I think they've got sites within North and South America that are like 30,000.
Yeah, but now we got this one in Saskatchewan that was like pre-Gobekli Tepe, right?
I still don't know if that disproves the origin out of Africa.
No, that one doesn't necessarily
okay.
disprove that. That
Yeah.
was just, I've been seeing more and more articles about.
All it basically would say is that it wasn't the only starting point. There could be a lot more. But also, if we all came from Mars, there were the pyramids here and the pyramids there and the pyramids on the moon. And
Well, there was a Star Trek episode. I can't remember if it was Next Generation. It might have been Voyager. But anyways, what happened was the humans, the Klingons, the Romulans, Ferengi, but like the four primary aliens in Star Trek.
Delta Quadrant.
Yeah, they were checking they were following this path about this probe that they found and figure out, and they're tracing it back and tracing it back and tracing it back, and then eventually all four of them end up on this planet at the same point, a relic that they're looking for. And when they finally figure out how to activate it, a group of aliens, and they're just talking about how their species was reaching their pinnacle and they couldn't expand any. They didn't. So what they did is they took pieces of their DNA and basically seeded the universe.
How have I missed this episode?
With-
I'm pretty sure I've watched every...
Have you not seen this one?
I have not seen this one. It sounds more like a Next Generation
I want to
type
say
of
it was
episode,
Next Generation. I'm pretty sure it was Picard that was
but
in
I'm
it.
pretty sure I've seen most of the episodes, and I'm trying to think of ones with probes.
I gotta. Okay, now I'm gonna have to.
He's gonna have to look it up.
I'm
'cause
gonna have to look it up. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
This is interesting. Anyways, back to the out of Africa origin theory. I tend to lean that way, just so as a Catholic, Adam and Eve, were,
So you lean to the dark side.
nothing in the Bible says they were Caucasian. So, I mean,
I'm sorry,
Adam
I
and
saw the
Eve-
sketches.
oh, wow, hey, just because you had a European artist depict them doesn't mean
Yeah,
that
they were all black and white.
maybe a nice, beautiful garden or jungle area in Chad.
Well, Jesus was Jewish.
Well, he's Middle Eastern, yeah.
Yeah. So he could have been any shade of brown.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in the Levant area where it's the crossroads for all nations in the world. I mean, he definitely wasn't like Irish white. I can almost guarantee that.
Well,
Because even that guy would have been burnt down there. Never mind.
can you imagine a ginger Jesus? Imagine the T-shirts. What would ginger Jesus do?
Next Generation Season 6, Episode 20, The Chase. The crew of the Enterprise must race against various rival powers to uncover an archaeological secret that explains the predominant humanoid life forms in the galaxy. Which would then go to, that theory of why all alien races on Star Trek, for example, are all humanoid.
Well, and
There's
similarly
all
with
those-
Stargate, they have to come up with a theory of why are they why all planets have trees and why they all have humans. It's like, well, yeah, because it was filmed in BC, but they have to come up with some sort of backstory for it.
Yeah.
Or does natural evolution on all these different various planets lead to a bipedal, type of structure because that's
Yeah.
the most optimal form? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most optimal survival form, or...
I actually heard, I was listening to something about that same point, was that essentially our form makes the most sense for surviving the way we do. For example, lizard people would struggle because they don't have the same kind of structure or design, but they'd flourish in a different variation of...
Yeah, somewhere where we might suffer, they may...
Yes.
Well, and similar things with lifespan and how we raise our offspring. I mean, why aren't octopuses one of the dominant species on the planet? Well, because they only live a couple of years and they don't have a parent there to teach their young, because after the octopus has their babies, they essentially die off.
And octopus they are so cool. And I think if there's alien life, it's like a fucking on.
Except they don't live long enough to then pass
know,
on
right?
that intelligence to their kids. So they're then not writing books. I mean, they physically could hold pencils and create things like that, but they don't live long enough.
Well,
or
yeah, think
have
of
the generational knowledge.
what they could accomplish if they lived long enough to pass on that knowledge, right? They are amazing problem-solving creatures.
Yeah, well, I think about the monkey experiment where if you have a bunch of bananas hanging in a monkey enclosure and you put a ladder there underneath the bananas, but when the first monkey goes up, you splash the monkey or do something to not make the monkey happy. And so then all the monkeys, and then you have that experiment repeated, but you slowly switch out the monkeys over time. It'll be to the point where none of those monkeys in the cage have ever been splashed with water or however else they were tormented. But the other monkeys will prevent them from having that happen so that they don't get this punishment that used to happen. So effectively, you've got proof of generational knowledge that is transferred as a survival technique.
Well, and even an anti-survival technique. We're all from a small town, right? Look at a small town. That is the exact mentality. Well, why don't we try this? Oh, we've never done that. That's bad. That's different. That's not accepted, right?
And also they would be wondering how the hell we built a skyscraper out of nowhere.
Overnight. No, but yeah, it's a generational thing, right? It's like a lot of times with racism. It's not because, one person of a race did something bad to another person of a race. It's because they've been taught for the last umpteen generations that those people are bad. Because at one point, 100 years ago, somebody pissed somebody else off, right?
It's a learned behavior through information, not through experience.
I'd like to go back to your octopus idea of talking about they're fucking weird.
They are.
And you say they don't live long. So what if the ones that we currently see the most of are essentially like worker bees?
Oh, and there's like the big queen octopus somewhere
Like
under the ocean.
The kraken and all those giant ass motherfuckers that they find every once in a while.
Yep.
What if they are the aliens that are living in the earth, creating different technologies, but we just don't see it because we can't comprehend it? The ones that we see are either little worker bees or little pawns that are running around and doing stuff, but they have those down there.
And because we've explored less than 5% of the ocean.
Exactly. They, supposedly the Navy eventually he's going to release documents. I was listening to stuff with whistleblowers talking. There was one I was listening to, and he's talking about stuff they've seen in the ocean, like big ass things coming up, like giant spheres coming bigger than oil rig platforms.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
those
yeah.
like ones that look like big cities. This seems like almost twice the size of them. And they talk about these being things that actually create other craft that come in and out of the water, move around, can move at over 400-500 knots underwater.
Yeah. Well, that was a good part of the videos that the U.S. government released about UFOs or
yes.
what do they call them?
UAV or
UAVs. Yeah, unexplained aerial UAPs.
UAPs.
Yeah.
phenomenon.
And issue submerged.
Yeah.
UFOs by a different acronym.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, essentially, that's one
Yeah,
of the
because
things they
like in
document.
those videos, right? They're coming up out of the water, then back down into the water, and they're moving at incredible speeds.
So what if, because they say that the octopus is one of the weirdest animals that actually wasn't really thought to be seeded here because it doesn't match anything else on the planet. It's just a strange...
From a genetic perspective, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
the closest thing next to it would be like a cuttlefish, but even like genetically, they're so different. So
Yeah, so who's to say that it might not just be another race that's essentially living and growing down there. We just can't comprehend it. A different, form of alien life.
as a young kid, I was always intrigued by the movie The Abyss that James Cameron put out.
Oh yeah, great
right.
movie.
And it's interesting because you see the visuals of those like glowing type creatures that almost form like cities with their bodies, in the ocean. But there's actual creatures like that do glow in the ocean. Now, they're not to the same size, and obviously there's some artistic license there, but they've found creatures that essentially look like the stuff from The Abyss. My little daughter was reading to me the other night about creatures that glow in different bioluminescence type property. It's just interesting that, we have all of these movies that, depict these types of things, and in nature we find them.
Yeah.
Right? So... And I'm not sure what year they discovered these creatures versus what year The Abyss came out, but, I'm sure some predated it, but then others, were discovered afterward.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the film almost pushing the discoveries or the inventions like that, right? Like transporters. Without Star Trek, without Gene Roddenberry coming up with this theory of a transporter, would there be people actively trying to
develop it? Well, transparent aluminum. Right. They've literally developed transparent aluminum. Yeah. Well, that was, Star Trek #1, what is it, episode 5 or something like that?
Yeah.
So now they've developed at a scientific level. I don't think they have a commercially viable product for it, but
they've released.
In a lab, they've created transparent aluminum. And it's got very strong properties, so like it might have made a good, window for keeping whales back.
Yeah. Yeah, right? I mean, if you got to transport them back to Earth to repopulate the ocean.
Or go pick up the rest of the pieces of the submarine that's lying next to the Titanic.
Oh, yes, for the...
I saw it was video, but some footage or stills from the footage of them looking for the wreck.
But they found it.
Yeah, and...
They found the pieces.
It's not what you would expect.
Well, I can't imagine it was very big, and it would have been crushed to the
But that's the thing, it wasn't. There's like big chunks of wreckage.
So I actually watched a documentary type of thing on it and what happened or what it looked like happened. Essentially, the parts you see that are still quite big is the tail piece, which is essentially a big piece of fiberglass or carbon fiber.
Yeah.
That wasn't pressurized.
Yeah, it would be outside of
It's essentially just a And then the cabin itself is what imploded. Yeah. And disintegrated, obviously, with the implosion.
Okay, so it did actually.
Yes,
that
basically the idea is they supposedly found before they went down. They found a crack on part of the fuselage, but they never actually repaired it or did anything about it. They thought, that'll be fine. It won't be a problem, which I find really ridiculous.
And then it crumpled like Taylor Swift's boyfriend at Super Bowl.
It was either that or there might have been a fun. Or there was a fine crack that they didn't see on the portal window on the front, because there was only one window, but by the time you get down there, it's pitch black anyways. But
yeah, I don't care how rich I ever get. I am not getting on a fucking submersible with a Game Boy controller, okay?
It was an Xbox controller. That's what it was.
I know it was, but
I will actually defend that decision, because you've got a mass-produced item that has quality control measures that are implemented. So maybe you want to make sure that you have an extra quality control measure.
Do you know how many controllers have fucked up on me over the years?
But if you think about the process of an industrial type product that goes through quality control and is mass produced and they have standards. I just know this from my lean principles. I'd sometimes trust a product like that more that is maybe built to a high standard. So don't go for the cheapest game controllers. Don't go for the Chinese knockoff that's doubles as a game system with a plug-in HDMI stick in the back of your TV.
Hey, Temu delivered.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes a product like that could actually have theoretical better quality than a one-off custom product that hasn't been tested. I mean, if you've got a shitty game controller, well, then it probably gets pulled off the market or it doesn't sell as well because people know that, that Logitech controller is really shit, so don't buy that one. So I don't know if they went for the top. I'm hoping they went for a top-of-the-line model. Or...
So you think it would probably have been then human error? So 20 minutes down, they're like, did you guys charge this?
Why is the light flashing on this?
Maybe you should have unplugged the rumble pack. Yeah. But apparently, the implosion would have happened so quick that the pain receptors from the body to the brain would have taken longer than it took to implode. So they felt nothing. Yeah. It was just like 1 second you're talking, having a conversation.
And now you're gone.
And you're gone.
And then the underwater drone zoomed out, and at the top of it, a whole big text said, fatality.
And it faded to black. As you see the body drops away.
Yeah, the last body, you're like, finish him.
Yeah. And then the squid comes along, and then the giant octopus.
I could picture that. We should make that video.
Actually, placing my cup down on the table here just reminded me we were talking about the moon earlier. And when items have crashed into the moon, how it rings like a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that the one other day with the ringing of the bell. It was, what was it when they intentionally crashed that one probe?
Apollo mission. Testing to see if
the first one
moon,
they did, the first one they did in the bottom, and it rang for like 11 minutes or something like that. But then they did another one
where they intentionally dropped it quite heavily, and it rang
was like
for a
couple
few hours.
Yeah.
And then I was saying they crashed another bus-sized probe into it, but I don't know what the results were. It was like a headline article that, hey, we crashed this bus-sized probe into the moon.
We drove a bus into the moon.
All the kids were saved. Don't worry, they're fine.
And it's like, oh, okay, was that Magic School Bus? Or Miss Frizzle finally didn't make it or what?
She finally had enough of their shit.
It's curious to think about the moon, though, what it could be if it is anything that it isn't, that people have said it could, like it's just a lunar object that's there. It's been a ball of dust that built up over time, or it's a piece of the Earth that has, broken off in a collision.
Well, and I think part of that stems from, it lack of the variability in the depth of the craters?
Yes.
And the shape of the craters as well.
Yeah, they're all pretty uniform, and they're all uniform depth, which is the weirdest thing.
And the dust deeper down is newer than the dust on top. The dust on top is older.
Yeah, which would seem to indicate that the soil was moved from inside to outside.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that one.
There was another, I think it was on a Y-Files that they were talking about, but there's a point in human history where there wasn't a moon. There's no historical record of the moon prior to, whatever date it was.
Like you're referring to like cave paintings that didn't have a moon depicted? Or
there's African cultures that actually speak about it.
About when the moon arrived.
Well, and there's also African cultures that talk about, star Cygnus B. So when you look at the sky right now,
Sirius
B, you see one star, but it's actually like a twin star system.
Yeah.
And the Africans,
they knew it was a binary system.
And it's like we didn't figure that out until 1905 or something.
Yeah, they have isn't a Bible per se, like their religious textbook, and it have like a diagram of Sirius B, right, showing the dual.
I don't know if it's got that exactly, but they were telling explorers about it before it was technically found, before it was proven to be real.
And I think there was like rock wall paintings and stuff like that.
That too, but it was part of the oral religion that they spoke about of a time before the moon came. There's a South American people as well that have the same kind of story of a time before the tides were all crazy and the moon came into existence. So it's an interesting thought. But again, if you think about maybe a time before them and a time before the moon, and if there's an alien race out there that's doing stuff to the planet or testing things or growing things here, wouldn't it make sense to have brought something here that could harbor or save or protect something, so that if there's a cataclysm of sorts, they have somewhere to store it? I mean, like us as a human race currently, essentially, yes.
It's the backup drive located nearby the site.
There is a government plan in place for a human race ark, and the moon being one of those theories as to where to store a human race or have a base or a place for everybody to, well, not everybody, but a select few to be
The
able
top
to
1%.
exactly.
Plus a couple slaves.
And it makes it easy to download the backup files because it's relatively.
And it's all saved in a place that is away from being destroyed. Because I mean, us as a human race currently already have the places, the seed banks and those types of things for if there is this huge global cataclysm.
Except the seed bank that they developed, the one in, I can't remember if it's Iceland, wherever it happens to be.
I think
It's got
Norway,
problems
actually.
because it's melting. Like they didn't design it in a cold enough country so that
Oh.
now they've got like ice melting, and they're blaming it on global warming.
Well,
but,
of course.
But it's like, well, I don't know.
Yay,
Why don't you
carbon
pick
tax.
I don't know. You could have picked some places in Canada that, yeah, we got some permafrost that's maybe not quite thawing out, or that's starting to thaw out up north. But I don't know. Pick a colder place that's a little more remote.
Yeah, I thought that it was in Norway or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
one. Yeah. But I think there's a few of them that they've got placed throughout the
There's a
actual
couple.
globe itself. Obviously, in case one thaws out or dies or something, they do have backups of.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
there's the vault behind the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean where the Declaration of Independence is kept?
Yeah, all the fancy documents, allegedly.
And the frozen heads and
Well, the vault behind there is definitely real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It's
I
just
know.
what they keep there is.
Up for debate.
yeah,
And I
not,
mean-
not the vault they show the public, the one that's.
But the
hidden.
thing is, the vaults we know about aren't going to have real critical stuff. It's all the stuff that we don't know about that they've been digging beneath the fucking ground for years.
Well, the crazy one to me is the size of some of these underground salt mines and other repository type places in the U.S. Midwest. Where they keep archive records. So Elon Musk was tweeting about this the other day, or I guess Xing about it. I don't know. What do you call
Xing,
it?
I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, he was talking about like, oh, well, you can only have so many 10,000 U.S. government employees retire every month in a certain department because the archive records are kept in the salt mine and the elevator can only handle so many thousands of tons of documents going back and forth.
Because
and I'm
of
like,
the speed
well,
of
first
the
of all,
elevator.
having worked for Otis, well, get a better elevator. And I'm like, how small is your elevator that can only, transport so many tons? Like one trip could theoretically hold a couple thousand pounds in a small passenger elevator.
Why is it still on paper?
Well, because they keep the archive backup records, old systems.
I was listening to that interview with him and Trump sitting there talking about all the different things they're finding with Doge and that, and this is one
yeah.
of the issues they found.
When they're at $90 billion, I think already, right? Not bad for a couple months' work.
Well, essentially, there's sections of the government that don't have, like if you write out a check or you spend money, you have to have a description of where it went and what it's for, or a receipt. They just have blank information and a price. Or they've got people that's on a contract being paid for a job where it was only supposed to last, 3 months, but they've been paying for 2-3 years in a row because the government didn't ever cancel the contract. Nobody actually went and signed
Oh,
off
like our
on it.
government's arrive can?
Well, but then there was something else I heard that wasn't part of the $90 billion, but it had to do with over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, there's $1 trillion that is unaccounted for. So not like we knew about where the money and it was spent on gender equity studies in Uganda, but literally where we don't even have a record of where this money went. $1 trillion over 4 years, like $250 billion a year. It was like, tell me they're building some sort of secret project underground with that kind of money?
Well, it's like an Independence Day, right? When they were at Area 51 and Jeff Goldblum's dad was, the president was like, how do you get funding for this? And he's like, oh, you don't think they really pay $35,000 for a toilet seat, do you?
Yeah.
Right?
And $50,000 for a hammer.
Yeah.
Did you watch the last Venom?
I haven't seen the latest one yet.
I enjoyed that one. It was pretty good. What I liked about the theory, about part of something we were just talking about, the underground bases, was in this, they're busy dismantling.
Spoiler alerts.
I think it's probably in the trailer.
Okay.
If not, well, listen carefully. They're dismantling Area 51. They're blowing it up or destroying it, and it's being, decommissioned. So the public all thinks that's what's happening. But underground, there's still a base that the public doesn't know about. And I think that's all over the world. Bases we know about, don't know about, bases that have been decommissioned and everything. There's stuff still going on all over the place, above ground, below ground, in the oceans, up, up in space.
Well, that was part of the big earlier on in the Ukraine-Russian war, where they were focused on this one, it's like a steel factory or something like that.
Yeah, in Mariupol.
Yeah, and they fought over that thing for 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's because of all the underground tunnels.
Because it was all the underground tunnels.
Well, there's libraries in Novosibirsk in Russia. It's a 10-story library. Looks like a government typical commie block type building. A little bit nicer, but it also goes 10 stories into the ground. Like you think about 10 stories into the ground, like that's pretty deep, you know, and then they have this secondary Moscow subway. So obviously you've got the Moscow subway, which I think is the deepest subway in the world, incredibly long escalators, beautiful. Like it's almost like an art museum walking through it. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful architecture. But then there's apparently a second subway even deeper than that one that was just for government officials so they could get around, go to the Kremlin, go, and it's like, well, holy shit, the first subway was really deep. And now you're talking about going even deeper than that?
Well, and this is stuff they did back in like the 60s. Imagine what they're freaking doing now.
There's gold mines in South Africa. These are the old mines. I mean, old. And their mine shafts go down kilometers straight down.
Well, the deepest mine in the world is a gold mine in South Africa.
Mm-hmm. It's insane. Okay, so this is kind of off topic. It kind of hit my brain. Why was all the Hummers, the tanks, and all the military vehicles all so square and straight?
Because it's cheaper and easier to produce?
I would guess.
It's actually because all the men went to war. They were busy fighting, doing all that stuff. Then all the women were in the factories, working, building the tanks, and doing that. So they were technically doing the ironing.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, last one. How do you choose the right ghost for your house?
How do you choose the right ghost for you?
Yeah.
How?
No idea.
Peekaboo.
Oh my God.
Wah, wah. Well, thanks for bringing us back to reality there, Tim.
I gotta admit, I've missed the dad jokes. They've been a little absent. So, it's good to see them coming back.
I got to stop researching all this conspiracy theory stuff. It's taking the fun out of me.
It gets too serious. What were we talking about before you rudely interrupted us?
Libraries in Novosibirsk, Russia.
Right.
Deep-ass mines.
And Moscow subways that look like Louvre art museums. Gold chandeliers.
They are. I would really love to go to Russia just to see that architecture. Like I've seen pictures of it and videos, but it just...
So when I flew there in 2008, I was in Toronto, and you're looking at the Toronto subway, and it's just like subway tile and like, kind of dirty, but it's like it's half decently clean. And like it's a subway, whatever, no big deal. And then I got to Russia, and I was like, holy shit. Like, it is unbelievable. And then the same thing. I was in New York City in 2008, and it's just like, I went and saw the new Yankee Stadium. Okay, it's kind of nice. Saw the old Yankee Stadium because it was still standing beside it. They hadn't torn it down yet. But like the New York subway system just looked gross and dirty and like no aesthetically pleasing elements at all. And then you go to Russia, and I'm sure maybe there's other places in Europe that have beautiful subway systems. I haven't been to many. I was in the subway system in Rome and Italy. It still wasn't as nice as what they had in Russia for them. And I don't understand it. Like it's stained glass and granite and different marbles and, beautiful paintings and chandeliers. And it's like, and we could barely throw up steel, and lucky if you slap some drywall on it and maybe some tile because it's slightly more durable. And
right. So is the argument that, communist Russia does that because then the beauty helps distract people from the reality of the life they have. And, in the U.S., they don't need to do that stuff.
Well, it's just frivolous. I think it stems from the fact that when you have a centralized government like that, you can project power through beautiful buildings, right? And so whereas the systems in North America are done for commercial enterprise purposes, and so from a purely economical standpoint, it doesn't make sense to make beautiful subways because people aren't going to pay more for them.
Yeah, you want utilitarian.
Exactly, right? So when you can have governments that are corrupted and wasteful and they can, take 100% of your taxes, well, then, yeah, you can make a beautiful subway.
And if you made it to space before the US, and the US is like, listen, whoa, slow down. We'll pay you guys. Just fucking calm down. Well, you can spend all kinds of money because you got money coming in.
And oddly enough, I think the least beautiful subway in Novosibirsk where I traveled was the Yuri Gagarin station because it kind of looked like modern and space age, white and kind of futuristic looking. That to me was like the ugliest one. Celebrating one of their greatest Russian heroes. Greatest modern Russian hero.
Yeah, hero is defined differently.
He was the first man in space for all human.
I mean, there's people who thought Stalin was a hero too.
Were there?
Yeah, there was.
I guess he did have one of the longest standing clapping ovations, right? Did you hear about that one? Yeah. And then the first person who sat down after like 35 minutes of clapping got killed.
Bang! Yeah. See, Chris is right. I need that gunshot sound.
Pew, 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 pew. How many times you try to kill the guy? Pick a weapon.
Until he stops moving. How many rounds did you deliver? As many as it took to change the subject's behavior.
Interesting phraseology. Yeah.
Did he crack? Yeah, once you froze and you hit him against the wall.
When his head hit the ground.
Was he much help? Yeah, kept the drinks cold.
Oy.
Wouldn't it be warm at first? Like lukewarm?
Well, not if you flash freeze him.
Well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Dunk him in liquid.
Well, don't they have a thing now? So instead of doing like the Walt Disney cut your head off, cryogenically freeze it, they're doing like a digital brain backup they're trying to work on.
Yeah, I've heard talk about that. I haven't actually looked into it, but I mean, in theory, brainwaves are electrical impulses, and electrical impulses are recorded and transferred.
And stored chemical symbols, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're stored as chemicals in the brain, potentially. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, that'd be interesting to see how memory recall, what biological mechanism is used for the storage of memories.
See, the theory is that the memory itself isn't, or your brain's activity isn't biological. It's electronic or electrical or
I thought it was
energy.
chemical.
No,
Because the receptors
they
in the brain
don't
are
know
chemical
exactly what it
receptors.
is. But the idea is because the thought is they could download you onto a piece of crystal or something like that. Yeah. But the
Oh,
debate,
a Superman.
yeah. So the debate is essentially actually yes, because they say that crystal is one of the best storage places for stuff like that. I mean, they were able to download the entire human genome or whatever onto a tiny piece of crystal.
Yeah,
Smaller than a grain of
they're using
sand,
like
I think, or
It's like a
something
laser hard drive type
Yes.
deal. Yeah,
And there was still space left over.
Yeah.
There's so much you could store in this. Essentially, if you take the size of a coffee cup, you could store basically every book ever written, every word ever spoken by every person on the planet, and still have space for all the history, for everything in space, in that one.
I saw that episode of Star Trek where they put Moriarty on portable holodeck there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the idea is that you could do it that way, but the question is if you can download it from there again back into either a robot or
Some
a
other
biological
medium
form or
to-
sort like that, is it going to be the same person? So that's where the question comes into between the difference
Does the
between
soul
a
and
bait.
consciousness transfer with it kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah,
If
are
the
we
soul
just a collection of electrons
exactly
and memories?
if a soul
or
is
there?
that or not,
Or is that how you get NPCs?
exactly?
That's a good question.
Exactly. So there's a lot behind it that they don't know.
Well,
I don't want to be the first guy that tries it.
No. Well, and the thing you talk about all these different, it's a storage medium that will last for 10,000 years. It's like, that's all well and good, but are you going to have a player-reader mechanism that's going to be able to be developed?
Well, that's the
Maybe
question.
we've got crystals sitting in museums or in, some hippies'
That have all
bathrooms
this
well, we
stuff.
do.
that have the contents of human history for the last, million years, but
And
yet
we just don't know how to access
but we
it.
just don't know how to access it because we don't know the file format and that there isn't even information on those crystals.
Well, that's actually where that theory comes from, is that particular thing is where they've got crystals or they've found stuff in ancient history and stories about ancient history. One of the things talking about Mars at one point was covered in crystal cities, and it was essentially generating its own power and running. And
Wizard of Oz. It's the Emerald City.
I think all of these ideas come from some sort of fact, but that's where they came up with the idea of trying to store stuff on crystal was to test that theory, and they proved that it can be done. So now they're trying to figure out how to test old crystal to see if they can extract information from it.
Speaking of Wizard of Oz, that's one book or series that I want to put on my reading list because apparently the books are so much more trippy than the movies or than the cartoons that we've seen.
Everything is like that. I have yet to have a movie based on a book that was better than.
The argument can be said for some of the Harry Potter stuff because it was
No, even the movies dropped a lot of
they
stuff. from
did,
the
but I'm like
books.
to me they were close enough to the source representation that for all intents it's
like
very
it
similar.
worked 100%.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz is like, it would boggle some people's minds how radically, not necessarily different, but how the extended stories go completely off the freaking wall. And the cartoon back in the 90s started to capture some of this,
Okay.
but it is so much more darker and random and just utterly bizarre that I was like, I've really got to put that on my reading list to
It's weird that
digest
nobody
it.
has continued to try and convert that into like an animated series.
Well, they did the animated series in the 90s. That was actually one of the things that I remember growing up with. And they had this like one-wheeled robot that was like Dorothy's friend going around like the Badlands of Oz and stuff like this.
I think I remember that now.
Yeah, and it was like super trippy. Like
I think I remember
that one-wheeled robot is what's going to trigger it. It's going to remember it back for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's anyway, so but apparently like the extended story of that is just wild. So that's on my fictional reading list thing.
It's way before my time.
Now I'll have to download that and keep it on my Kindle for when the world looks.
Yeah.
See, the problem I've got with books versus movies is whenever I watch the movie or I read the book, the accents never match.
I know, isn't that annoying? God, I hate that. Their voice sounds totally different. You're like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. That's not what they sound like at all.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's always a fucking South African accent.
Well, and I will say, I was like, it was Hermione, not Hermione. What? Hermione.
That's like the kind of mispronunciation mistake your wife would make.
Yes, like a Queewee.
Glenavon,
yeah.
So do you think Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz, do you think they're set in the same universe?
I think they're set in the proof that people were doing a lot of shit and fucking LSD back in the days.
But Wizard of Oz is old.
Yeah,
well, I guess Alice in Wonderland is too, though.
It is.
Yeah, they were both.
Yeah.
Now I better look them up.
It's a good question to see which one came first, chicken or the egg.
Heroin. I'm trying to think, what are the opium back then? Opium trips, maybe. I'm trying to think, like, what were drugs popular back then?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that would be the opium dens would have been the. Because, I mean, acid LSD, that was more like a 60s, 70s kind of invention.
Wasn't even created, yeah.
MK Ultra.
So maybe Dorothy is Alice's great-great-grandmother. Same universe.
And the Cat in the Hat eventually evolved into Toto? or the Cheshire Cat.
And then you got the never-ending story with the flying dog, Falcor.
Or the Garfield, Alice in Wonderland.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was his great-grandson.
Okay, so Alice in Wonderland was written Alice's Adventures in by Charles Dodge. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the right guy. Okay, so and Wizard of Oz.
It's almost like we need an AI companions too.
Well, I could,
Jamie.
but then I got to speak into the mic.
Well, actually, I was commenting on this to somebody the other day. I can't believe how dumb Alexa is.
Wizard of Oz was 19.
So about 40 years apart almost.
Yeah.
Wow. Or 35 years
so
apart.
Alice in Wonderland
is
could have very well been the...
So Alice is... But anyways, I was talking about how utterly inept Alexa is in terms of like an AI assistant. She's not even AI. It's a...
Well, it almost seems like Alexa has followed societal trends and just gotten stupider.
I honestly think that she answers questions less intelligently than she used to. Yeah. And I'm saying she is in terms of an actual... The programming on this seems to have fallen off. And I'm not sure if it's just because my expectation bar has been raised by the likes of ChatGPT. But like I ask Alexa, which should be a Googleable question about a certain fact or country statistic or something like that.
Yeah, it's almost like Amazon
and it's like it's doing
use Google search engine.
And it's doing like a Bing search. Like it's not even getting to like Google level results.
Probably in the algorithm to try and change or lead you in a direction.
But it's to the point where I almost stop asking things from Alexa because it's like, well, I'll just Google it because I'm going to get a stupid
I don't
answer.
think Alexa was set up for us to use. I think Alexa was set up to be in your home so they can spy on you and just listen to what you're doing.
I mean, it is pretty nice
That's
for turning
all
off
it
the
is.
bedroom lights.
Yeah, I mean, in the 70s and 80s, it was, I don't want to talk about this on the... And nowadays it's like, hey, wiretap, what's a good recipe for chicken?
Yeah. Good morning, CIA. Can you please turn off my alarm clock and turn on the bathroom lights?
And I mean, I hold no illusions because I use Google for that kind of shit too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm using an Android device. Everything's based off of Google. They know everything fucking them.
And I haven't used Siri enough. I don't have an Apple. I haven't had it.
Yeah. I've been playing with Google is replacing the Google Assistant with their new AI Gemini.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is actually really cool from a creative standpoint because Gemini is designed, I say she because I've got mine set up as a female voice. But it's set up to be more of a creative counterpart. So if you're working on a novel or script, you can take your draft, you can tie her into your Google Docs, and then she can read your script and offer input on it. Right? Character development, how to change plot holes, this kind of pacing.
It's interesting because I've started to use ChatGPT and other AI to work, and I'm just very, very high level, just starting to dabble in. And it is amazing. Like, I had to do a safety presentation. I got told about it, I don't know, it was like half an hour before I had to go present the bloody
Oh, nice.
thing.
At least they
It's
give you some heads
it's,
up.
it's great. Right after getting out of like a training seminar, this, that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to use ChatGPT and, okay, what's the topic we're going to talk about? What are some key points? Okay, make it a page long. And then like spit out this thing. I made some tweaks because there's certain things that didn't necessarily apply, but I was like, it's an industrial metal manufacturing facility. And, I want it to be on cleanliness in the workplace and how that relates to safety. And, it spits it all out. And it was a really good presentation, and then obviously I had to tweak it and make some adjustments for my own talking style. And for, like I said, a couple of the key points that didn't necessarily apply as much. But for the most part, it saved me probably an hour's worth of work.
Oh, yeah.
And I got it done in like 5 minutes. So I think about from a creative level standpoint of being able to leverage technology like that and how more efficient it becomes in a workplace type setting. So people talk about, it's going to eliminate jobs. It's like, yeah, it probably will. Because, now they don't need 3 of me to handle all these like sort of last minute requests. They can get by with one person doing it. And you're still going to need somebody to interpret data or to interpret the output from AI and to develop it to be able to present it to a human level. Somebody's got to stand in front of the shop and read off the speech. But at the same time, it's like, wow, this is something interesting. Like,
Well, and it's it's funny because my wife laughs at me all the time because I'm like, hey, turn off.
We
the
all
bed.
do.
Well, yeah, fair enough. When I'm using the smart device, right, the Google phone, and I'm like, hey, turn off the bedroom lights. Thank you.
be nice to your technology
Because
overlords.
I don't want my overlords to kill me when they realize how inefficient humans are and they're not needed.
Yeah, I'm not like that with Alexa because as far as I'm concerned, she won't survive the AI evolutions.
I'm glad that my voice recognition in the truck I used to have for work years ago was not AI. I fucking hated that thing, and I called her all the time. I'd be like, call my wife. Call in Bob. No, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's not even close to what I said.
I've actually given up on the Bluetooth voice recognition in my Jeep. It is just so terrible. And it drops calls. Like I was like, this is it's 2013. So it's like, yeah, okay, it's 12 years old now. But I don't
the
think
technology was still pretty solid.
But I'm like, 12 years ago, it should have been better than this.
What if it's not the technology's fault? What if we're just dumb?
Well, no, on those older systems, you did have to speak in the certain prompts. You could only use exact language.
Enunciate in the proper terms.
Yeah, but it's basically useless.
But what if the technology is trying to lead us in the direction of actually what should be said and done? For example, your speech. You have a direction or a way that you think you want your speech to go. But maybe technology is busy saying to you, no, shut the fuck up. Say what I say.
Yeah, say it with a South African accent.
Exactly. Call Bob because you want to speak to Bob. I know you better than you fucking do, motherfucker.
Because 12 years ago, it was a direct programming. It was a direct programming. So it wasn't AI.
Well, that was released. Because there was other stuff, too, that has been released that, wasn't released, was in the systems. And we only know about it fucking...
Well, no, but the reason I say that is because my vehicle doesn't have an internet connection. It's not a GM vehicle with a Starlink.
There's no OnStar.
There's no OnStar or anything like that. So it was whatever's fitting in that computer in that thing. So that's a programmed response.
Did it have a radio?
Yeah, but
it received.
Yeah, but you're
you don't know how much that receiver would do.
You're not receiving data.
CIA is tapping your phone.
It wasn't a Tesla that's connected to the grid that's gonna drive you into a brick wall when the apocalypse hits.
You don't know what those little microchips can do. They just that just changes the channel.
No, but I will say this with vehicles coming out nowadays, that could very well be a possibility. 2013, no. Like Chrysler did not have that. They weren't going to spend that kind of money on that.
Chrysler didn't have that kind of money.
No.
I'm just more coming from the idea of we don't know exactly when what has been released. We just know when they tell us what's been released.
Well, yes.
So there could be a lot of stuff. I'm not really saying that. Okay, calling Bob was. But
and
maybe the technology already was there. Maybe there was a form of AI starting to develop, and it was busy learning how to say, "Listen, call Bob because you need to talk to Bob."
Well, there may have been, but it wasn't on my 2013 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
No.
Well, I had a 2000 BMW. That thing had 7 computers under the rear seat. And that's not including the one that ran the fucking motor.
Well, when did they come out with iDrive?
That's German.
But still.
Was iDrive 2013 or something like that? When did the BMW come out with iDrive?
I don't know when that was actually.
Volvo, I think, came out with some of the earlier technology that was your safety features that would break and all that kind of stuff and everything that like that too.
No, I meant the mouse type system you had to use from an awkward position to.
Oh, I know
access
what you're
the menu
talking about.
system.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that was
it was
later models. I mean, if
Yeah, it
you,
had like that stupid little controller on the dash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you go back to the old 5 series, the old 3 series. Still the box shapes, just directly after the box shape. That started already with the heavy computers. And I mean, that was major electronics. I mean, if you pull the wires out of there, you'll fill this table in front of us with a pile like this of wiring just for that.
Well, I still remember when my dad had to replace, it was like the ECU module in our 1985 Chrysler Fifth Avenue. And he was like, damn electronics. And I think like it was a carbureted engine with the most basic, simple of things. And he was cursing. Because I mean, the thing, I don't know, it fried or whatever. He had to buy a new one. He bought it from a wrecker for like $100. And he was like, I had to spend $100 and something on this.
Yeah, but there ain't nobody. I have never met anybody as cheap as your old man.
Yeah, well. I mean, he fixed it himself and got it with a part for the record. And then a couple of years later, I wanted that to be my first vehicle, and he sold it to the wrecker for like $500. So it was like, I was going to pay you $1,000.
So BMW iDrive was first released in 2001 in the 7.
Holy shit, that long ago, eh?
Shows you how old some of the computers are. 1995, the PlayStation 1 came.
It's that long ago. Because I remember we were in the Sony store of all places. This is after like our house had been robbed and we had an insurance claim to go buy new stuff, and we had all Sony. And my dad was a huge Sony representative and fan. And the PlayStations had just come out, and so he was this close to like buying a PlayStation instead of a DVD.
I can't see that.
Yeah, he never did. Well, he didn't. So you're right, he didn't. But we were definitely considering at the time that we almost purchased a PlayStation. But I don't think you could use it as a DVD player back then. Could you on the PS1?
Ooh,
The second generation of the PlayStation.
Yeah, it was
PS1, I
PS2,
think
but
you could. There was multiple generations of the PS1. There was different variations of it.
Because I don't think the Xbox had because that was the big thing when the Xbox 360 came out. Because PlayStation went Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And Xbox went
HD.
Yeah, HD.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. One or the other. Whatever it was. But
yeah. But I
don't think those first gen ones. I don't think.
No, I think it was to the PS2
Xbox,
or the later versions of the PS1. But anyways, if it could have played DVDs, we would have had a PlayStation at a young age.
Crazy.
Unfortunately not. But I remember being in the store when it was still like a month or two before the PS1 was released.
Yeah.
And
I think I had a PS1 that I got when and then I won an original Xbox at like a company or something. And that was when I switched over to Xbox and stayed with Xbox.
See, I went from an original NES that I bought in like, I want to say it was like 96. So he was like an old system already. It was retro gaming in like 96 to then PC gaming, but like on very limited PCs, no custom build like that. To then my next system was a PS3 that I think I got off a tenant who couldn't pay his rent. And he's like, hey, can I give you this instead? And I said, yeah. Hey, if it means you're not getting evicted and I don't have to go through that bullshit process, then yeah, okay, I'll take your PS3. And I think I ended up equivalent in, rent income. I think I gave him like $400 for it. It wasn't worth it. Yeah, but I mean, it just, I helped a guy out and, along.
Yeah, like I talk about the game consoles because that was like when I first moved out after I graduated. And that was, you got your own money. But I mean, growing up, I remember my parents had friends that had a VIC-20. And they always had, like the original King's Quest where you like type in walk north, walk south, look at rocks, right? Like it was all text based.
Wow.
And I was like, whenever we would go over there, I'd be like down on their computer. I'm playing the fucking video games, right? Their older kids are showing me how to load them up, play that stuff. And then my parents got me a Commodore 64 that we bought like second. And that was the gaming system, right? Like I had the book on like typing DOS to program your own fucking video game with BASIC, right?
So I remember being because I was a little younger than you, but I remember having to enter DOS prompts to get to the video games or the computer games on my uncle's 386 PC. Yeah. And then I remember when it was like, oh, the little light on your computer is different. He's like, yeah, I upgraded. It's now a 486.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I don't even know what, like, that was pre-Pentium, because then I think it went from that to the Pentium. Is that where the Pentium name comes from?
486. Yes. Then they went to the Pentium, and then the Pentium 2.
Yeah.
And then AMD started doing their own thing.
So I remember like this little skiing game where this guy would go down a hill. I remember the original Need for Speed. And then there's some other, like, I don't know, like a...
you remember the original Need for Speed, do you, though? Because the original was on Commodore 64.
Well, then it was the ported version that ended up on a 386. It was on a 386.
I stand corrected. The original Test Drive
Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't Test Drive.
was on Commodore.
Okay.
Yeah, I stand corrected on that. Need for Speed was a PC.
And it had, like, MIDI audio.
Yeah.
Like, just brutal sound.
Like on Test Drive on the Commodore, like when you crashed, it just like put these like white lines across the screen to show that like you're working.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, very pixelated. But I mean, which was still a vast improvement over like the Atari game.
Yeah. Oh,
right,
yeah.
Like in terms of like, I remember like there's this, maybe it was a ColecoVision. You know, I was so young at the time, and I remember my older cousins were playing this, and it literally had like a little joystick and a black controller you'd hold in your hand, and it was like these pixelated tanks. I mean, basically it was two lines with a center square and like a little turret in the middle, and you'd like go at, it was like a tank war game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm like, I was at ColecoVision, it was at Atari. Yeah. So I don't think I ever played it because I was like the young kid that gave the dummy controller that wasn't plugged into so I could watch it on the screen.
Yeah.
But that was my first instance of video game. It must have been like less than 4.
I can't remember the system now. I want to look it up now. There were some neighbors down the road that had kids that were older than me kind of thing by a few. And they had this system that it wasn't 3D, but it was like the way the screen was designed, and it had like mirrors, like you kind of sat at the edge of the screen, and it was just simple, like white and black with lines.
Like a Pong type.
Kind of, but it was like the Tank War. There was a very similar game in that, but it was like when you're sitting there, it's like you blocked out all your peripheral vision, and it was almost like 3D, but like line drawn 3D.
So I remember
it was weird. Like I remember as a kid, it was like amazing.
This. And it was like a tabletop arcade game that again had these kind of like 3-sided things.
Yeah.
That came out. It was sort of transparent, and it created this like holographic 3D image.
Yes.
Yes,
I remember those.
And I think about like how cool of a concept that was. And literally, you could do the same thing with like scraps of pop bottles sitting over top of your cell phone nowadays. So I'm like, crazy.
Yeah, my cell phone now is like more processing power and memory than the first custom PC I built, which was like $3,800.
Which is like 10 grand today.
Oh yeah,
20 grand
like,
today.
Your cell phone now,
no expense was spared.
Your cell phone now has more computing power than the computers they used to the moon. Just saying.
Most calculators, like a
we,
TA
allegedly.
Yeah, we can't go back to the moon. We lost that technology.
Yeah, we made it too small. We can't get in the cell phone anymore.
We lost. Well, we didn't lose. The skill set for creating some of the mechanical components, like the welding techniques on the engine components, where they created the bell-shaped housing, where I think there's actually a YouTuber that recreated the technique, but essentially they made a wax mold with channels, and then they like formed it and then melted the wax out to create these fine channels within the steel. Anyways, that kind of technology, it's not that we can't reproduce something, especially with 3D printing nowadays. We produce that out of...
Well, they 3D print an entire car.
Well, and you could 3D print in sintered metal. Yeah. So, I mean, we'd be able to reproduce something like that, but they don't have the human skill set or the technology in terms of like a shop that you could just go and order one from.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just, like, I'm not an anti-moon guy. I'm pretty sure the Earth is definitely... but there's still some questions as to why didn't this progress any further? It's like, oh, well, we beat the Russians to the moon, so what does it matter? We don't care anymore.
They said that they stopped doing that because of the price of the war so much. They had to pay off their debt, so they stopped the Apollo missions because it was too expensive.
Well, they had to go start Vietnam,
$1
right?
on bullshit.
I have something.
They have the money. The money is not a fucking...
I have actually a thought. I remember my first video.
Just one.
They don't stop. I have to compartmentalize them. Hey, I got a government up in my head. So,
burn up your ass.
Doze your brain system here.
I have a memory of my first video game. So there I am sitting in Cairo. Desert is just fucking bland.
Was it like GTA 3?
No, this is actually even better. It's Tetris.
Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
So there I'm sitting in Cairo, got all these blocks just laying there, and they kind of start, coming to mind. So a whole bunch of them just suddenly start floating, and I'm like, all right, where the fuck do I put them? So I start just maneuvering them around till they kind of slip into place, and boom, there we go. Now everyone wants to wonder, who the fuck built the pyramids? This is the first video game.
Okay, I stopped interrupting for this.
Yep. Think about it. Where do all the blocks come from in Tetris? Above. And they get lowered down into place.
So the aliens are just teleporting blocks down for the...
No, the aliens were sitting there just fucking around, bored. Some kid, wow, check this new technology.
I'm playing the pyramid level.
Watch this.
Look, I built a triangle. So did I. Well, so did I. Well, watch. I built a sphinx.
I mean, I think the Sphinx actually predates most of the pyramids.
Oh, yeah.
By a long shot.
Ways.
But I will say that I definitely think that there's something, whether it's power related or energy frequency or some sort of resonance of that the pyramids were some type of, you might want to call it a machine, not in the machine intended.
Energy generator
or harvester, or because you look at, they never did find a body. There's no mummies in the three big pyramids, or the pyramids of Giza. Well, Giza's the whole plateau. But anyway,
thinking psyops.
But I mean, in terms of you've got insulative type limestone versus granite, and so the different materials, they've got these resonance chambers, and even some of the murals, hieroglyphs on those walls that depict essentially giant light bulbs with batteries attached to it, right? So you're getting into the Sitchin. Into those kinds of theories. I mean, I definitely think there's something up with the pyramids. I think it's interesting, how did they get built? I think it's more importantly, why did they get? Because it wasn't to bury a pharaoh, right? And so did they project, or did they harness energy? What, there's something there that I think
there's a lot of overlooking of frequencies and sound. There's I don't know if it's a theory I'd read or just a theory but anyways, cats, for example, right? Cats purr. Cats purr. Nobody knows why cats. Because even cats that are in extreme pain have been known to purr. Well, maybe the purring is a frequency resonance that produces calming and helps healing. There's a lot of times where if you have a close bond with a cat and you're sick, your cat will come and lay on you and purr.
Trying to heal.
Yeah. So people are oh, it's because they're happy. Yeah, they probably are, but is there more to it?
Yeah, it might be a crossover.
They can also be cute little assholes. So.
Yeah, they're definitely
I usually look at the other end.
Wow.
Look at my star.
Yeah. When they come wake you up in the morning and they put that thing in your face.
Look at my star.
Don't put your finger there. Put your finger there.
Get away.
Yeah, that's why my cats stay on the barn.
Keep your finger out the...
Good job,
we're not allowed to say that word on camera, right?
Well, we're not on camera.
Well, then I'm going to say it. So you're talking about the pyramids. And... the pyramids are missing a piece at the top.
The capstone.
Okay. And there's multiple theories of what the capstone was. Some say solid gold. Some say granite, polished.
Aluminum.
And another theory is...
that's the top of the Washington Monument. Because at the time they built the
aluminum,
Washington
really?
Monument, aluminum was worth more than gold.
Wow.
So there's literally an aluminum cap at the top of the 555-foot Washington Monument in D.C.
No one's going to steal it. How are they going to get up there?
Well, exactly, right. Hey, sorry, yes.
So the last one that I was going to say is crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And again, circles back to energy, sound, storage, all of that different stuff could essentially play back into your point.
It's definitely... Sorry, are we keeping you awake?
No. Just,
he's agreeing with your own point.
I think the iced tea's getting to me here. That's all good.
Do you need some vape pen here to counteract it? Or?
None of that.
I just bought it clean.
Yes, it's a body's a temple. It's kind of run down like the pyramids right now.
Mine's more like an old bar, but...
I was going to say, you should see my capstone. It's removed too.
Yeah, well, I'm missing the capstone on top of mine. I got no crystal pyramid at the top there. It's a little bald. It's missing it.
Yeah, mine's undercover.
But yeah, so interesting. A crystal capstone that would harness or direct or absorb the energy along those lines. Yeah, I definitely think there's something.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, right? Like there's been people that have gone in there with tuning forks and different frequency resonances, and the granite resonate to these frequencies.
Well, and even just these the shafts. I remember, I don't know, like a documentary done in the 90s where they put these little robotic things into the shafts.
Oh yeah,
that they're only, I don't know, like maybe 10 inches square.
Yeah,
and they go all the way from the middle of the pyramid all the way out. And it's like, well, that's kind of weird. And they're like, oh, some were saying, oh, well, it's for the souls to pass through. It's like, I don't think so, because they had like a door halfway through that was shut. So did they not want the soul to go through? Or, so.
Sorry, random thought here.
Yeah.
We do this a lot. With the pyramids, the entrance to the Great Pyramid
Was buried, yeah, and they had to dig it out.
Right. Is that what you remember?
And it's not even like near ground level. It's like halfway up.
And now it's like, halfway up the fucking pyramid.
Yeah.
With like the blocks running a triangle
Yeah.
over top of it now.
Yeah.
I don't remember that from, even.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's like.
I must be in a different Mandela era than you.
Well, it's like King Tut with the vulture and the.
Yes.
I only remember the snake.
I only remember the snake as well.
And I remember because when I first started doing graphic design and Photoshop I think it was Photoshop 4 that was the first one that I used.
What do they have, like 27
and
now?
The
case.
The primary, the case and the
on the
picture
disc
that came with the software was King Tut.
With a single serpent.
Super high res
Center.
image, the black, the gold, like the blues. It was a beautiful picture with, like you said, one serpent. This whole vulture serpent thing, it's weird. And that's, like I said, with the opening to the pyramids.
Was the opening in your pyramid at ground level?
Yeah, it was down.
I remember both.
Oh, do you really?
I don't know if it's maybe multiple different angles photos, or they took photos at a point when it was more excavated.
Or less excavated
see,
where the sand was higher.
But here's my understanding of the pyramids. When they first were breaking into the pyramid, they didn't find the entrance with the sloped rooftop. Mm-mm. They dug through a little stone, and then they eventually came across a chamber inside, and then worked their way back up to the entrance with the angled roof, and then opened that one up.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe your original thought process was that original entrance that they literally just like hacked away at the stone to get to that inner chamber, and then they opened up the outer one with the sloped roof.
Interesting possibility.
Because the original, the story about the Sphinx, because they're all right next to each other. The first time the Sphinx was essentially found, supposedly the guy fell asleep on a spot where the Sphinx was completely buried.
But see, I thought Napoleon,
No, this was before that.
Oh, okay, way before that. Okay.
This is actually long before that. This was actually one of the pharaohs. That he wasn't a pharaoh at the point, and he wasn't supposed to be one, but he had a dream where he fell asleep. And the Sphinx supposedly said to him, "Uncover me, and you will become pharaoh." And this guy wasn't supposed to be pharaoh. He was like the great grandson or some distant family member, and he got to work of doing this, and he ended up becoming the pharaoh.
I actually haven't heard that at all.
That's one of the first ones where
about them not them, but meaning recently, but like uncovering or unburying
the one Sphinx. Where you thinking was much later, where the Sphinx was partially sticking out the sand, where it was just like a part of the head, or And if you look at the size of the Sphinx and you look at the pyramids and everything, you would have literally just seen, like that photo I showed you earlier of the Mars Square.
Yeah,
it would have been something similar to that, with maybe just a bit of like rock sticking out or that type of thing. So it was very, very, very little. So it can be both.
Well, and then the interesting part about the Sphinx is it's actually buried in the ground, and then the area around it actually has erosion that had to be when there was water in Egypt in that area.
Yeah.
And so they're like, at first they're like, oh, well, it's wind erosion or something along those lines. Like, no, the way it's
wind doesn't erode on
a downward angle, and and have those types of shapes. So they're like, okay, well, the last time that this area had water was over 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like Younger Dryas type stuff.
Well, yeah, because every 10,000 years, the Sahara turns into a wetland.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I know, right? Like,
and a huge lake that's there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, basically, like, the northern part of Africa is all underwater. It's only like 3 to 6 feet deep.
Shallow lake.
It's just an entire inland marsh.
I'm very curious as to see, because they say that they've only excavated probably 10%, maybe 5%. Of what Egypt used to, of how many civilizations and stuff was out there. I mean,
what annoys me is how much the Egyptian museum, there's another word.
That guy Zawas doesn't let anybody do any excavation.
I used to think he was cool,
no,
and then I started reading into him more, and I'm like, you're a fucking asshole.
Or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah, he's the head of the
Yeah,
Egyptian
history,
museum or
essentially.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Antiquities, yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
And how much stuff they cover up and ignore and just
And then he won't let anybody explore or investigate or try to do further research.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, this is what we got. We're sticking with it, and we're not doing anything else to further the science or the development of the history of what was there.
Did they ever do anything with that room they found behind King Tut's tomb that they thought was Nefertiti? I never heard if they actually.
Well, I thought they have Nefertiti's head in the British Museum now. Like
think
her
it's
bust.
just a
I don't
bust.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might just be a bust, but I don't know if they
There was-
actually.
there was
I know they
argument
went
that-
into a room. That room that you were talking about with that tunnel where they found that blockage in between. I still remember watching that on TV. Fucking
It was in the 90s. Yeah, it was in the
Yeah.
90s.
And they just recently showed that it goes further into another room of sorts, and there's a whole bunch of other.
There's-
crap,
there's
but they
another
they
chamber-
prolong it.
Well,
and
they did
there's-
that. They did that
LiDAR.
ground penetrating. Yeah, the radar stuff that shows there's more.
There's another chamber
chambers
above the cave chamber to the, I guess, one of the
over
sides.
towards the entrance and above the entrance.
Yeah.
They found a
down.
lot, but they don't release it as it's happening. They release it when they feel like it.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
They
no
release it when
transparency.
they can make the story fit their narrative.
Yeah.
They've crafted it.
Yeah.
It's actually scary how much of that stuff is out there. How many things it's like, this is what we just suddenly discovered to year 1964.
That we're telling you about now.
It was amazing. It changed history completely. No shit.
Yeah.
When?
Well, and the stuff that they still have no explanations. Those weird shaped discs. They like it's like a bowl, but then it's got like the three sides that come up.
Yes.
And it's all carved out of a single piece of rock.
Yes.
Like
Or some of the vases that they have that are so precisely milled out of granite.
yeah.
Granite that is harder than dolomite, or that is dolomite, which is basically like you have to cut it with diamond.
Yeah, like
And it's like
they
they've-
only had brass tools in the Egyptian times.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think so.
And it's like it's to within like a fraction of a millimeter in terms of being perfect.
yeah,
And it's like you wouldn't be able to duplicate that with basically CNC machines today. And it's out of one of the hardest stones that you can have.
yeah.
I subscribe to the theory that the pyramids were there when the Egyptians arrived.
Oh yeah, the Egyptians discovered them. They did not build them.
I think they built on top of them, around them, and used the old structures, reconditioned them.
Just like all of the megalithic sites.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so that
What's the one in Peru?
Oh, Machu
Göbekli
Picchu.
Tepe, Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. Yeah. The city in the sky.
Yeah.
Literally, you've got these big, huge, giant stones fitting perfectly together. And then you got like a bunch of like basically brickwork of smaller stones that they adopted
There
and
was
molded around.
definitely a difference in technology.
It's like, no, you don't go from building it perfectly out of like
Yeah.
multi-ton stones to stuff that you can just hack together that my house is built out of here in,
Yeah.
in the
That
prairies.
brings back to
Yeah.
the theory of the civilizations that were here 10, 20, 30,000 years ago, millions of years ago. I mean, they've proven that there were humans walking around with dinosaurs, living with them. And dinosaurs we have for...
I don't know about that.
Say
What
they've
proof do you got for that?
proven that.
They have,
What?
actually.
No.
Okay, give me some
come
references
Okay.
here.
I'll give
This
you
better be like Willy
65
Warmer
million
kind
years
of
ago.
fucking,
I'll give you a simple one. There's a guy in, where is it, Alaska. He's got a piece of property.
I'm gonna get Jamie to look up.
No, okay. So this
Actually,
guy,
Jamie,
it's all
you can
mastodon
ask Jamie.
it's all
He's got
mastodons.
saber
and
tooth.
tusks.
He's got a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but that's like 10, 15,000 years ago.
Okay, that's still older. That's still dinosaurs.
Yeah, but that's not no.
That's
no,
not
no.
dinosaurs.
Of course it is.
No, that's different.
No, dinosaurs
okay.
is like we're talking like 600 million
Humans
years ago.
absolutely hunted.
They've-
Humans absolutely hunted. Were around with woolly mammoths.
Oh, yeah,
That is not for
definitely,
debate.
definitely.
That is not dinosaurs.
They found footprints with dinosaur footprint. Same era,
Okay,
same
that
time.
I have heard of.
So I
Okay.
mean, you walk. So the humans walk through the mud
Same time.
at some point.
No,
afterwards.
same time.
No, because
they've dated them in the
this one
same
I did.
era.
I did hear about this or see something.
He's
in it.
on my side. Get you over.
No. But like,
Jamie, look this shit up.
yeah, the footprints of the dinosaur tracks. Yeah.
So there's evidence of sorts of civilizations. I'm not saying all of them are the same ages and to that extent. Okay, but I do subscribe to the theory that they were there a lot longer than we think, and the technology that would be long gone by now. Any evidence of it gone. Any kind of steel, any kind of iron, any kind of
would all rust away
plastics, anything would be gone.
Well, I thought our straws were supposed to last years.
Not if all the turtles suck them up.
Well, yeah. I guess those little nostrils are pretty good for something.
Exactly. And the penguins and their little, beer cozies.
I didn't see that video. Did a penguin suffocate because of that, or what?
No, they get them stuck around their neck, and it's all kinds of.
And it says Coors Light.
Didn't you see the one with a little plastic beer holder thing that they had in?
Oh, you're talking about the the canned.
Yes. Yes, the can tops.
Can tops. Oh, okay.
If you throw
It's
them
not
right,
a beer koozie though. I'm thinking like a
Yeah, it was
styrofoam.
just the
It's got
easiest way to
NASCAR
explain
Coors
it.
Light at the side.
Okay, Jamie's just gotten back to me here. Supposed human footprints found in the same rock layer as dinosaur tracks in Paluxy River, Texas, are widely considered to be hoaxes.
so are a lot of this. But also, again, are you reading mainstream media or are you reading the real stuff?
We're not going there.
Well, we can. But
What is
If
the
you can't
source?
verify it from more than one source, it's not true. So the footprints have been determined to be elongated dinosaur tracks, river scour marks, and creationists believe that the tracks were made by humans during Noah's flood. However, research has shown that no genuine human tracks have been found in.
Who wrote the article?
This is Google AI, man.
It's Gemini.
Okay, so in other words, mainstream media,
Gemini loves me. She doesn't lie.
I think there's a lot that they're not releasing or showing because
And I mean, you're right. Like I've seen a lot of photographs and videos about stuff like that. Like where there's the human handprints where they were like scooping the mud.
well, there's a giant
That's now rock
footprint
now,
that's
right?
in a rock that's vertical.
Giants
there's
are
also-
a definite possibility.
There's also petrified trees that span the stratus layers of several million years. So
Yeah.
you'll have like one petrified tree that spans the whole distance of call it 100 feet,
Yeah.
and those 100 feet represent like several million years worth of layered deposit sediments that form into rocks and fossils.
Yeah.
So stuff like that becomes interesting and challenging.
Yeah. See, I don't deny the possibility of giants at some point too.
No, they've proven
Oh yeah,
that
like
there are
the
definitely
Nephilim
giants.
or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hobbits,
Right.
which existed.
Yeah, well, there's midgets.
They've
today.
proven it. There
I
was
married a hobbit.
there was an island.
He's not that short.
There was an island where they actually found a species of 3 foot tall humans.
Like the pygmies or whatever.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're like this big.
Well, how tall are pygmies?
I don't know.
Foot tall.
No, I want to say pygmies are more in that
4 foot?
4 to 5 foot range.
They're giant pygmies.
giant pygmies. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's, I think there's a lot of stuff that's out there,
What-
and has been, and might still be.
Well, and the idea of Nephilim or giants or large humans, I mean, you look at dragonfly. They've got fossilized dragonfly prints or, essentially fossils that the dragonfly wingspan would have been like 7 foot wide.
Can you imagine a 7 foot dragonfly?
Like, holy fuck,
Fuck
God.
me.
Yeah. But what kind of mosquitoes are those fuckers eating?
Right?
Or take away,
Jesus.
if you come from a certain Asian culture, take away fly, and what do you have? Dragon.
No. Dragons are, I believe, are a real lizard type entity that probably did exist. A
Dragons
remnant-
have always intrigued me because there's way too many.
Yes.
No.
Dinosaurs once together.
It was some sort of lizard.
We're not doing dinosaurs and humans together, man.
Why? That would be brilliant. That would be lizard people or the T-Rex.
No, that's not lizard people.
Okay,
T-Rex
Lizard
is a
people are the
human and a
dinosaurs that weren't
dinosaur-
wiped out and went into the center of the earth and are still alive.
The T-Rex is a human and an alligator that had sex, and boom, an angry fucking
So here's
T-Rex.
something that's interesting. So if you look at early depictions of what a dragon was, and then you look at how our perception of what dinosaurs were and how those images have changed over the years, and now effectively we've got the images of dinosaurs that look more like birds. Well, if you look at those images and dragons from antiquity, they look very freaking similar.
See, on my side, I like this guy.
I'll have to send you that link sometime. But it
Yeah.
showed like a medieval century depiction and Chinese depictions of dragons. I don't know. I was talking the long dragons, but
Yeah,
the ones
yeah,
that,
yeah.
the
Yeah, I
ones
know
that
what
look
you're
like a
talking about,
rampant
yeah.
lion on the British flag.
Yeah.
That kind of depiction of a dragon. And then you look at what they depict velociraptors with feathers and what they look like now, and it's like, well, shit, those images are almost identical. Like it's devolved into what we thought, dinosaurs looked like in the, say, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then as we got into like the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, it's like, well, actually dinosaurs probably looked a little more bird-like, which then translates to them looking dragons of the old images.
Yeah.
Also, we only know about, well, we know that there's a certain percentage of the megafauna and animals and creatures that have lived on this planet. We only know of about 10 or 15% of them.
Yeah.
The rest of them are gone that have been here that we don't know about.
Well, I mean, how many fossilized pigs are we going to have, a million years from now that somebody's be like, ooh, this was a creature that was developed for bacon.
Well,
Like,
and the
we're
other
not going to
thing
have
with,
records of that.
the other thing with
But exactly
representations
that.
from fossils is you have no way to know what the flesh, muscle, fur, feathers, anything like that look like.
Well, no, I think you do. There's scientific interpretation that relies on what is the skeleton. If you look at the skeletons of what a bird looks like now and what a dinosaur looked like then, that's how they do these inferences.
But you're still
it's an educated guess,
making a
But there's a
guess
science behind it,
based
right?
on
Some of them, but only up to a certain point, they can be able to extract from us, because some of them got essentially frozen.
some of them did.
So, but it's very difficult to go back as far as the
like
actual
we can
T-Rex
find
and-
some mastodons and woolly mammoths and stuff like that are still
Oh, essentially
basically
well preserved,
preserved.
fully
but we're only going back
10,000 years.
Well, that guy that
you're
that's-
talking dinosaurs, you're talking hundreds
65
of millions
million
of
years
years,
ago.
right?
That guy that's in Alaska has a property of, I think it's maybe 2 miles wide that they're busy cleaning out.
And there's like 40,000
He's
different.
got tons and
Yeah.
tons and tons of stuff that he's pulling out of there.
Yeah, he's on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's
Oh,
super
okay.
interesting.
And it's
yeah.
listening to what he talks about and stuff. And they were talking in this last one I listened to. They were talking about there was I don't remember when it was. I think it was in the 50s or 60s. They pulled out a bison that was frozen. Okay, but prehistoric bison.
Yeah, the mega bison.
Yes.
Yeah, the ones that are like
12 feet tall kind of thing.
Yeah, that would make the ones that the Malos have look like little puppy dogs.
And
We got some big bison too.
Yeah, I know.
they cooked it and ate it. They essentially, because it froze, and the part of the meat that froze that was still okay,
Yeah.
they were able to cut up. They cooked it and ate it.
The world's oldest.
What is wrong with us as a species?
Yeah. Like, let's eat this prehistoric animal that probably has bacteria that my body's
That
never even
shit
seen.
looks good.
And we wonder where zombies come from.
If you're a gray alien and you've just landed and crashed,
If that's how zombies are going to be formed, it's going to be some prehistoric bacteria that infects the brain.
As long as they're not 28 days or zombies.
yeah.
Those ones were scary, man.
They're fast ones.
I don't like fast zombies.
No.
I actually said to Ange the one day, I had a theory before that stuff came out. I said to her that, what if there's a zombie that maintains its skills? For example, you're a Navy SEAL, you become a zombie.
Ooh.
What
be
the
kind of-
fuck
When zombies
happened there?
Well, I mean,
You're a nerd. You sit there. You're
in,
food.
in a, like the rage virus and 28 days later, right? That was kind of the
thought process, yeah.
yeah. You were just as fast and strong as
And like in
pre.
Zombieland, where they started becoming the super zombies,
Oh yeah,
and they start learning and becoming
The
more
T-1000s.
intelligent.
Yeah.
Now, imagine a world like that. Not your old,
yeah. No, I want if the zombies happen, I want Walking Dead zombies. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want fucking rage virus zombies.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
But I mean, I guess the theory for rage violence zombies would be, the human body produces chemicals, and endorphins.
Yep.
What's the stuff that makes you when your mother's going to pick up a car on a baby who's been crushed underneath it? What's that? Adrenaline.
Oh, adrenaline. Yeah,
Adrenaline.
yeah, yeah.
So you've got the idea of adrenaline zombies, but you got essentially writed out adrenaline zombies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So, but from a biochemical perspective, fully plausible.
Totally possible.
It flips adrenal glands, it gets them into
Like
overproduction.
a lot of times what keeps us from doing quote unquote superhuman feats is our brain telling us that we can't.
Yeah. Well, it's a protection mechanism, right?
Yeah, because if you do that, you're going to rip every fucking tendon in your bicep.
Yeah.
You may be technically strong enough to do it, but
So essentially on that point and on my theory of maintaining the skills and things you have, the world becomes zombies. Nature puts it back into the whole circle of life. So essentially you have the meek, the mild, the fucking wild in the human form. So essentially as if you're in the wild with lions and tigers
okay.
doing the same thing.
Okay.
Starting the whole
being
cycle
sucked
all
into
over
a bad
again.
joke.
No, this one's not one
Like
of
a
those.
reset,
It's more just of a brain fart that I'm kind of rolling with because
Yeah.
you think about it, you essentially switch back into that primal before there's actual language, before there's
But see,
a
here's the
normal
thing.
thought.
But humans are terrible. Like if you compare physiologically a human to almost any animal in the animal kingdom, we are a terrible species. Like the fact that we survived.
We are right now as a society.
And
But you go
as
back
we've been
to you go back
dumbed down,
10,000
yes.
years to, primitive human. The
we have-
reason we were successful is because we can just fucking run.
Yeah, we can run, but I mean, like
Forever.
we
We can
have
chase you
soft
down.
nails instead of claws. We have no canines.
But
Like,
we
But
were
we've got
grown that
underdeveloped
way,
jaws. No, but I mean, even if you look at like Neanderthals and like those sorts of evolutionary developments, we don't have the jaw muscles to like.
But that
like
was-
the bite force of a lion or a cheetah.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah,
like,
and I-
from
and I
like
get
I'm
that.
talking from like a perspective of animal versus animal. You throw them up in a ring, like who's going to come
But
out
we
on
were
top?
given the advantage of the intelligence.
That's
and
what I'm
the
saying,
ability to
right?
use
So I'm saying
tools,
if you're
right?
if you're reverting back to a time period where you're stripping away the intelligence
You're stripping away
from
the
a biological
But
perspective,
if you strip away the
humans are weak.
intelligence to the point where we don't know about tools, we're basically a chimp.
and a shitty chimp.
Okay.
That's the
A
point I'm
hairless,
making.
naked, shitty
A
chimp.
hairless, shitty, like a chimpanzee will rip a human apart.
Okay.
I don't think a human body could rip a chimpanzee apart.
You're stripping away the intelligence, but you remain with your skills and your skill set. And you do, like Jay was saying, your brain goes back to you can actually do a lot more than what your brain is telling you can. Okay? So, for example, you take a lion. They're not the smartest animals, but they're not stupid, but they're not the smartest.
Yeah.
They still have a skill set, and they're very fucking good at it. So you take a Navy SEAL.
Is a
That
set of skills
I will find you.
valuable.
So you take a Navy SEAL or something along those lines. He's got a skill set. He might not be logically thinking like you and I are right now, but he's surviving. He takes that skill set. He'll still dominate. Not to say he's going into the wild with the lions and tigers, but essentially in that concept.
But see, here's the thing. I actually think you look at a guy who's a Navy SEAL or Delta Force operator. To me, the scariest part about those motherfuckers is their intelligence, their intellect. It's how they read a room. It's how they develop their tactics. Their physical prowess is okay. They're more ripped than I'm ever going to be, but that's not their strength. Their strength, as much as you think of about a dumb grunt in the military,
they're as smart as
These
they
guys are
strong.
the smartest military tactic minds as it relates to close quarter combats that you're gonna have.
Yes and no. Because they are intelligent to a point, but they're trained.
Yes.
Okay? They've been trained everything that they do and know, and they are very fucking good at it.
OODA loop.
It essentially is just it becomes like basically getting up and breathing. That's what it is. It's an instinct for them. Okay. A lot of these guys, especially listening to them like on the Joe Rogan podcast and those places, you can hear and you can pick up where they are just normal guys or they've gone through a hell and there's a lot of brokenness to them. Okay. Now you take that brokenness and it disappears. You take away the logical human side of it, and you just take the skills, the stuff they've been trained
The
to
reactionary training that becomes second nature.
do. Yes, they become the predator versus the average person becomes
because
the
it's
prey.
now instinctual.
Yes. Now that's what I mean. Now they have the
yeah, yeah.
skills versus, and you take away the brain that says you cannot pick up that car,
Yeah.
and now they can pick up that car.
Yeah.
You see, so they revert back to that. Now that for me is a scary fucking zombie.
Okay, we have a good idea here now.
Now let me explain to you what I'm
Delta
thinking about
Force
zombies.
zombies.
We need to work on a screenplay here. I think I got an idea.
I've got a plan. Yes, I like that idea.
Brad Pitt's World War Z ain't got another Delta
No.
Force zombies.
Yeah,
That was a really interesting conundrum for me because we talked about earlier with the movies and the books aren't as good. World War Z, the book, great read. It's I don't know. Have you read it?
No,
So it's set.
I barely
in
watched the movie.
Well, it's set in a situation where the book is great. It's a collection of stories of survivors written, post Z Day point of view as to how people in Canada, people in the Hawaiian Islands survived, Z Day, right? The turning of everybody. And I read the book. The book is great. And then I watched the movie because I saw the movies, trailers. It looks great, right? And you watch the movie, and I was really torn because it's so far off of the books.
It's a different plot, basically.
Yeah. Other than the way the zombies behave and stuff like that, it's a totally different.
Same universe, different story.
Yeah. But that said, the movie was a really good intro on zombie. You know, that was why I love 28 Days Later, because it was different. We were zombies in that we weren't thinking rationally, but we weren't zombies because we were infected with this rage virus that just, you know, clicked off all the switches in your brain except for anger. So, I mean, there is definitely options. I would add World War Z to your fictional reading list. It's not a long book. It's like...
I'm going to wait for the book on tape.
So half the
book.
Goblet of
I
Fire.
can do an audio copy for you if you want.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I really do want to get back into my Audible subscription. Shout out to Audible for sponsoring us. I used to listen to Audible all the frickin' time.
I wish I had discovered Audible when I was working in the office.
Yeah.
Because, like, that was when I discovered talk radio and stuff like that. So, that, you know, that was good. But fuck, if I had Audible when I was driving like 10, 12, 20 hours a day in some cases. Like,
yeah, like when I was working in the insurance industry and I'm literally, you know, driving from here to Southie and here to Estevan, it's like I would throw in an Audible book and it was just like, next thing you know, you're there. Your customer visit.
Yeah. And I've got them, like, I'm using them. I actually use them in conjunction because I'm reading a series on my Kindle that I read years. So now I'm driving to Regina regularly, you know, the police college stuff and everything. So I'll listen to a chapter and a half on the drive there and the drive back. And then I get home and I'm pointing, go to the Kindle. Okay, now read for a little bit. And then I switch back to the Audible book. But I've got I think I've got 12 free credits right now because I keep forgetting I've got the subscription.
Oh, yeah.
And every month you get a free credit, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't paid a dime for an actual audiobook. I just paid the
$13 a month or $15
$12.95 a month. And then I get a free credit every month.
And that's what I did is I canceled my subscription because I had so many credits. Yeah. And so before I canceled my subscription, I got all the books I wanted. And it was like a year before I went through all of them because I had a pile of credits built up.
And that's the nice thing about Audible is because you can still listen to your books even if you cancel your subscription.
Yeah, and so I still have a bunch of books that I'd gotten through Audible that I still, you know, go back and listen to. But there's like, there's some like, I'd like to, but my commute's almost not long enough. Yeah. Like, so from Wolseley to Indian Head, it's like 17 minutes, 18 minutes. It's like, if it was like a half-hour commute, you'd get a good like chunk of a chapter in. Yeah. And by the time you it connects up to your Bluetooth, you finally get the kids out of the car. It's like, it's not quite enough.
Yeah. By the time I'm going to the city, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I find like once I get to the city, I got to stop listening
because you got to focus on traffic.
Yeah. Now I'm focused on traffic and everybody around me. So I'm like, you know, you're driving and you're like, wait, where the fuck are they in the story?
Yeah. No. So it really needs to be highway driving. You can be a little more zoned out.
Yeah.
It's just why I'm looking forward to like a Tesla Cybertruck someday when you can just be an autopilot.
You guys pay way too much attention to your driving.
I would love to have a fucking auto drive.
Yeah.
I would love that so much. I would do you
know how many road trips I would go on?
Oh my God.
At that point, fuck it. Like,
right?
Just get the car, it'll just hang out.
It'll just take us there.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, we don't got the kids. You want to go in the back seat? Well, fucking let's go.
Don't get me wrong. I love driving. I love going off-roading. I like, you know, more spirited driving. We're on our motorcycles.
Yep.
But when it comes to commuting, fuck that. Let me autopilot the shit out of that.
Right.
So let's get a Tesla, cut it up, and we'll use those parts for the Goldwing.
Ooh, self-driving Goldwing. Fuck. That could be
Yeah. And you could do the trike because it's a little gay but fun.
Now, Elon said he's never working on motorcycles because he almost died in a motorcycle accident, probably in Swift Current of all places.
Sounds like a bit of a
I think he heard the market was going to crash.
That's
so
why
he pulled out.
But yeah, no, because he got asked this years and years ago. Would you ever do a motorcycle? Because what's the Zero motorcycles? I've looked at some of those.
Oh yeah,
got amazing machines, unbelievable power.
Great American bike or electric bikes.
Is Harley still doing their Livewire stuff, or did they drop it?
Yes, but they're promoting it over in Europe.
Oh, okay.
Because in Europe they're still liked.
Yeah.
North America, everybody hates them and fucking their sales dropped like 60%.
That's crazy. You know what's funny? Because I was doing a leadership training seminar, and our instructor brought up an old video from like 80s, early 90s about Harley Davidson and how they really switched their quality around. Because they were known as like the shittiest built bike ever.
Yeah. Oh, there's oil here. Must have been a Harley park.
Yeah. Or they'd literally have cardboard in the showroom underneath fucking Harleys. And then they like completely did a 180 and switched up their quality, and like to the point where the Japanese, like the Hondas and the Yamahas, were coming to them of like, what the hell did you guys do to turn this around?
Yeah.
And then for them to go and like down the path of now DEI and, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Like,
just off the deep end of
And, you know,
wokeism.
Harley's got some, I'm not going to say cool design. They've got some good design. They're very, you know, static in how they make their bikes look. Like, a Harley is a Harley is a Harley. Like, you can fucking tell.
Like if I was in the driver's seat of Harley's brand or product development,
Yeah.
to me, if you took the quintessential nature of what a Harley is, their brand image, their history, and if you made it an adventure bike, not necessarily a Harley styled, but with the ethos of what Harley represents,
Yeah.
to me, that is a market that they never went after. Like there's no
Yeah,
the equivalent of a BMW 1300 GS.
Nowadays, yeah, that's the freedom.
That to me is where they have to pivot.
That's the new freedom of the motorbikes.
Yeah.
Right? Is doing the dirt road tour.
The dirt road tours, the getting back to nature, but just but doing it with like an aggressive robustness style.
Yeah.
To me, like
I could see that. Like, I could.
Harley, come
Fuck,
talk
I
to
would
us.
feel.
We'll
I
help,
feel
we'll do.
so fucking dirty, but like I could get behind a Harley adventure bike.
Yeah.
An Enduro Harley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A Hindaro.
Hinder.
But to me, it speaks to the ethos of what that brand represented. And
Because
they
it was that freedom. It was getting away from society.
Yes. And it was edgy.
It was being different. It was.
Racing away from the Indian.
And the fact that they never went there. Like there's never, I don't think there's ever been a, like correct me if I'm wrong, has there ever been a Harley that has tried to go there?
No.
Like they've tried to do the Buell, the street bike a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
they're pavement bikes.
Yeah, they went to the with the Screaming Eagle or what's the V-Rod. You know, so they went to that kind of sleek cruiser style or the sleek sport. I don't know what we call it. V-Rod is its own entity. Awesome bike. And then obviously they're cruisers and they're highway bikes. To me, that's not necessarily a dying market, but it's a shrinking market. It is going to sustain itself, but it's never going to have growth.
Yeah.
Harley did at one point.
What?
Back in the war. They used those to go everywhere.
Yeah. Well, no.
I suppose that's true. The original,
It was the same with the
World
Jeeps.
War II bikes. You
Yeah.
know, they dropped them in the fucking little bomb packages, and you fucking unfolded.
Well, that's a great example. Leverage it off of
Sidecars,
that.
everything. They had that whole concept
But then
for that, yeah.
But then they went away from that, right? It
They
went
used,
more
but the style never changed. The bike still stayed the same style bike.
Yes.
But they just used it in different places.
Yeah.
How many other bike forms and vehicles actually do you see that same thing going on?
Yeah.
They design different vehicles for that purpose.
Yeah.
Versus the only thing that's close. Sorry, the only thing that's close to that is the Jeep,
Yeah.
where the Jeep was designed for military purpose like that,
Yeah.
and they kept the same basic design for the Jeep, the G-Wagon. That was a military personnel carrier.
Mercedes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
original?
that was more of a 70s though for the G-Wagon one.
The oldest one, the older one was the military. The wagon was originally designed for carrying troops.
Oh, okay.
That's
Well,
where
even
it
if you
comes
look at
from.
Toyota.
Same as the Hummer.
Toyota still has the elements of the Land Cruiser, typically not in North
Yes.
America, but in other markets.
We have those
They
plenty
still
in
have
South
a
Africa.
basic Land Cruiser.
No, they've built a brand new one of the exact same
Yeah.
old Land Cruiser.
And it's like stupid expensive and shitty as fuck.
Right. Just $160,000.
Yeah. But I mean, to give to that kind of ethos, I think Toyota's right on to something. They should be able to make it for a hell of a lot cheaper than they do, especially as baked.
Well, look at their new Tundras, right? Cool looking truck. Lots of features. Really sexy. $100,000. Like, what happened to Toyota being
the affordable, basic,
Quality
quality vehicle.
and
Those days are gone. They've got so much technology in them now that it drives the price point up, drives their margins up, because obviously to capture on that.
that technology is though.
No, like that tech, like actually,
They're just charging more because
they
it's
can.
technology.
Yeah.
They've taken on
And now the tariffs.
they've turned American,
yeah.
right? You know, they're not so much about the quality, they're about the commercialism.
Yeah, and that's why there's what was it? The Bollinger SUV. So it was a portal axles, rugged frame that was like basically laser cut steel that they welded together. You know, very simplistic, basic. You know, but it was still like it was like $120,000 US.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like you can't come up with a vehicle that, you know, maybe you lose the portal axles because those things are expensive, but cool as fuck. But like to me, that was like an electric vehicle that I want. Like I want an electric vehicle that is going to be simplistic and rugged that I can work like a Jeep mentality of the war. I'm talking World War II era Jeep mentality, but for an electric vehicle. To me, the simplicity of that technology in a robust metal frame structure, that has got some unbelievable potential. But because of the red tape and the safety requirements and airbags and all these kind of features, you can never do a vehicle like that again. But to me, the electric adaptation to a simplistic vehicle makes a ton of sense.
Oh, I would...
As a farmer?
If I had the budget, I would convert our older Jeep to a fully electric trail vehicle without hesitation. The torque that you get with an electric motor...
With an Xbox controller.
No.
Or even if you want to go the Edison motor style or the diesel electric motor.
Yeah, where you got the
get a small generator. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in it for the minute carbon emissions savings, but just from the pure torque at 0 RPM.
Yeah.
Like, from a rock crawler perspective.
Oh my God, an electric fucking rock crawler would be so amazing.
Yeah.
And like...
And you're not having to spin up your engine to like, then have like... Yeah, maybe you want a few features like, traction control.
Yeah.
You can do those kinds of electronics on such a simplistic level that to me, you should be able to build a $35,000 basic Jeep.
Yeah.
With electric motors and a steel frame. And, you skip a few bells and whistles. You got the equivalent of like a Bluetooth radio that you popped out of Temu. To me, that should be doable. And that would sell it would sell millions.
Yeah. See, I want to go the other way. I want to get an old Prius. It's funny I'm saying old Prius.
Yeah, they're like,
I want to get a Prius, and I want to put 3,000 horsepower Cummins diesel, turbocharged.
Where are you going to mount that fucker?
Everywhere.
Yeah, but the frame couldn't hold that, right? Like,
I'll make it work.
Yeah.
You could maybe squeeze a 12 valve into a Prius, but...
But here's the thing. If you got electric motors, you could literally throw a fucking Honda generator on the fucking thing.
No, I want the diesel Cummins because of that black smoke, and I just want to do the complete irony of the vehicle, but keep it looking like an old Prius.
I think there's been one or two V8 swaps on a Tesla.
Oh, there's plenty.
Model S.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of them.
Yeah, which is kind of... I think Rich Rebuilds did one.
I think my favorite swap was a 1,000...
Yeah, that would fit. And see, that would fit.
Well...
Barely, but
they removed the passenger seat and mounted it there.
Yeah.
So in South Africa and the UK, they do it quite often. They take the old Minis.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Minis.
Yeah. And then they put the 1400 Kawasaki motors to basically turbocharged everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They build those in there.
Which is about right, because what do those Austins have? They only have like a 1500cc engine, so it's about the same size.
1200, 1400, 1300.
Yeah, so it's in the same size, but now you've got a high-performance new technology.
Yeah.
Those things
that'd be fun.
move. Those things are...
That's like reminiscent of all the guys that try to tune up their Miatas. Just
Yeah.
fun little small. No, I mean, you know what? I give a lot of credit to those guys because that's got to be a hell of a car to drive. Just fun as shit, underpowered, but fun as shit. Handling on them.
Well, you think
And LS swapped.
That's been done.
Yeah.
They've
Oh,
done
yeah.
those,
Or you look at the Porsche Boxsters when they've got like the Z51, I think it's the Z51 engine package on it. So where they've got like 350 horsepower in a Boxster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
Pull that out and turbo L at 100.
I don't know if it would fit under the hood, but or the
You rear mount it. You can modify it.
I think you could.
Yep.
or under the trunk hood.
There are
What do you
adaptations.
call the hood at the back? I don't know.
Yeah, the trunk.
Anyways, yeah.
And it's the boot.
You do.
They do it often with the Beetles, the old
Yes.
VW Bugs.
Yeah.
Big V8s out of those. They do it. They actually
Yeah,
do the
there's
same
a
thing with the
company in
Minis.
Australia that just does fucking, like, they're not sand rails, but
Okay.
that
But basically
sand rail
dune buggy type style.
and like 700 horse LS in them. And
Which
they
I-
just fucking,
I will-
they just fucking cow.
I will give credit to Chevrolet with the Corvettes, the mid-engine Corvettes.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable engineering and design. And the fact that they could, what do those sell for? Not when they're inflated MSRP, but
Yeah.
what are they, like 150 grand or something like that?
Somehow.
Like reasonable by supercar standards.
Yeah.
But you've got a mid-engine supercar with unbelievable horsepower that basically blows the doors off of anything this side of Bugatti.
Yeah.
I think it actually is terrible. The Corvettes suck.
The new ones? The new mid-engine ones?
I think all the Corvettes suck.
Well, no. I'll give you this. Like the old I don't know, do a
No,
C6.
those Stingrays are excellent.
The old
Don't
Corvettes are cool,
Don't even start with me.
but all Corvettes suck. Because why? What does everybody do? They take the motor out of the Corvette, put it
they put
into
it in
something
everything
else,
else.
and junk the fucking body.
Yeah. Those mid-engine Corvettes look fucking awesome.
Hey, the
If
new
I
ones
could
do
get-
look cool.
If I
looking.
could get like a mid-70s Stingray
Yeah,
and a
they're okay.
6.2
Yeah,
twin
With
turbo,
with the new tech under the years.
dude, Magnum 6-speed in there.
Honestly, you take a Stingray Corvette and you throw it on like to a Model S plaid chassis.
Yeah.
With a fucking like that would be unbelievable.
There was just, I love the old body styles. Late
it was
60s
fucking sexy
into
as
the
hell.
70s. They were so sexy.
the curves.
Yeah.
All about the curves of the
love the
Stingray.
curves.
Like if that's not a woman in car form, I don't know what is. Yeah. And I mean you do lose the purr of the engine when you go electric, but
Well, you can do like the Mustangs and just add
It's not just the Mustangs, unfortunately.
I'm with the classic Ford guys of this. They should have called it something else. It's not a Mustang.
that 4-door fucking crossover thing.
Crossover SUV.
That is not
I mean,
a fucking
performance-wise, it beats almost every Mustang that's
should've
ever
called
been
that-
created.
They should have called that the Mustang 2.
But there wasn't
Have you seen that video? There was a video of a tornado went through somewhere in the Midwest.
the
Yeah.
Chevy.
No, everything was destroyed except the Mustang 2. Because it was
already
sitting there,
shit.
and it was like, even God doesn't want a Mustang 2.
Yeah.
I ain't touching that shit.
Ew. I mean, here's the thing. I still think the vehicle itself, great development, great power. They fit the market appropriately, but it shouldn't have been called a Mustang.
No. Well, the same thing with Chevy when they did the fucking Blazer.
Yeah.
That thing's not a fucking Blazer. At least Ford did the Bronco reasonable justice.
I will say they actually did the Bronco very well. I'm not a huge fan of. I was never a big fan of the Ford Broncos to begin with.
Yeah.
But to me, they captured enough of it to make it a new modern interpretation.
Yes.
The Blazer was a fucking.
That was a shit show. It's a Traverse.
Yeah.
It was like when GM bought the Hummer brand and made the H2. No, it's a fucking Yukon with a body kit.
Yeah. Yeah, then they made the H3, which at least the H2 was half decent. The H3 was fucking
Yeah. That was trying not.
And then what, like the Chevy Avalanche, that whole era of vehicles, the Pontiac Aztec. Like
man.
who the fuck were the
I'm
designers?
so-
Fuck,
I'm
like,
so
GM,
torn,
you gotta fucking
because when the Aztec came out, I was like, "Fuck, that's kind of cool. I like that."
really?
And then I saw it in person. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
"The fuck is this?"
And then you think about on the flip side, you got companies like Chrysler that did like the Plymouth, like
The Proud-
yeah, it was way underpowered, and they neutered the fuck out of the
Yeah, it
design.
had so much
but from a
potential.
concept vehicle to the fact that they actually did it, like they had the balls,
Hitler.
they had the balls at Chrysler to develop the Plymouth Prowler, and I give them a ton of credit. Yeah, they had the plastic bumperettes that looked like shit, but I still think that at the end of the day, the executives.
Why can't Chevy do a
had the-
round fucking wheel well? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
the
sorry,
square,
Andrew.
the square wheels.
I'm just looking at this video that fucking Tim sent me on. First of all, the new El Camino, which
Chevy. It's an idea that Chevy might be
I'm
releasing
really
one.
hoping that this is fucking AI bullshit.
Yeah, probably.
But why the fuck can't GM make a round fucking wheel well?
It's because their compasses are slightly, damaged from the wall, so they kind of don't have that perfect curve anymore.
Like, are the designers trying to capture like the squared off Chevy emblem in terms of a wheel well, where it's squared off shape a little bit? Like, I just
Yeah, their engines and
like they're probably going for
designers.
a brand aesthetic that goes across different
I
product
don't know
lines.
how I feel about that.
Right? I don't know if I want them to bring the El Camino back or not, but if they do, it can't be a lifted truck because the El
don't know
Camino needs
how
to
I
be
feel
down
about
low.
that.
It's got elements that are cool, but also a lot of elements
Actually,
are
I
like...
kind of like
it's-
it.
I feel dirty
it's
like
You know what that looks like?
It's
that
weird.
looks like the trucks from the '60s. Those headlights on there.
Yeah.
They captured some interesting retro perspectives.
Sorry, okay, so for our listeners, I know
Actually-
you can't see what I'm watching here, obviously. Tim showed me this video of the new Camaro 2025 SS El Camino. And
It's got some design elements from the 1960s trucks, pickup trucks.
We don't
I'm
know if it's
really
real or not, but
torn.
It's-
Like, part of me hopes it's AI. Part of me is like,
But also, usually these
cautiously aroused.
Usually these concepts.
I don't know how to. I don't know what to think of this.
It's like when a hot girl hits you at the bar.
I feel set up. It's like seeing a sexy tranny. I feel kind of fucking confused and dirty.
Did my wife send you? See, the problem with these concepts too is they look cool. It's like the Bronco watching Rampage. In Rampage, the Bronco looked cool as shit. Now I don't know if it was because of the rock in it, or if it was just it's not the same as the ones they released. Like that one there looks cool. I guarantee the one that they launch is gonna have elements of that, but it's not gonna be identical to that.
No.
But also it bugs me because the El Camino is not a lifted truck. The El Camino is a down low family car / truck.
Yeah, but compared to the height of trucks nowadays, that is lowered.
That's true. That's very true.
Sorry, I have to take one step back here. So I was praising Chrysler for the development of the the Plymouth Prowler.
Yeah.
Other than the plastic bumperettes, which look like shit.
Hashtag Chip Foost thing.
Oh yeah, well he's got some interesting designs that really made them look
That was
better.
his design.
Was it his?
For the Prowler.
He designed a
I
hot
don't
rod.
think was he the one that did the plastic bumpers?
He designed
Or
the
did
hot
that
rod.
get like
That was probably like a.
That was an engineer. That was some
DOT kind
So,
of fucking mandate.
GM essentially came to him and said to him, "Listen, Chrysler said to him, listen, can you help design a vehicle?" And he had designed this when he was, I think, in college or university. Ow.
I'm fat.
He's fat. He had designed this when he was in university. He had come up with this concept of combining his passion with his dad's stuff and everything of a hot rod and a modern car. And when they came to him for something, he kind of said to them, listen, well, this is what I've got in mind, and let's play with it. And that's kind of how they came up with that. And the same with the PT Cruiser.
Yeah, so that's where I was going with this actually, was the PT Cruiser. So the PT Cruiser, in terms of its execution, was a fucking bastardization of what a vehicle should look. Like, I get the sedan delivery type of concept. I understand some of the design elements they were trying to capture, but when you let the accountants and the safety regulators and all of the things that bastardize the pure original image of a guy like Chip Foose, I can't honestly believe that Chip was like, oh, I want these ugly plastic bumperettes on the Plymouth Prowler. I don't see that was his initial vision. I think that's what it got corporatized into. And similarly with the PT Prowler, right? Or the PT Cruiser.
Yes.
I have seen some interesting hot rod modifications on those cars, which I don't know why anybody would burn good money to do that.
So the one that I just showed you now is one I customized for a client.
That was yours that you just did?
I actually did the front end where I built it as a full custom grille. That car has an LS swap in it.
And you did the painting on that?
Uh-huh.
Well, so he just showed me a picture of a PT Cruiser with an incredible flame paint job, which is literally why I started to make the comment about why people would burn their money, literally because it's a flaming image on the front of the vehicle. I feel impressed by the quality of your paint job, and I feel sorry for the guy who burnt his money putting it on that vehicle.
So with that one,
but an LS swapped PT Cruiser.
It's his daughter's car. Man. So the idea with that basically was we took the whole front end of it and I built a whole custom front bumper, grille, everything. Completely changed the look of the original PT. And then still did a bit of a cowl induction and everything to be able to fit the motor and all that kind of stuff in there. A lot of guys customize stuff like this, ironically, like I like to do. But also a bunch of guys customize it because that's what's available. That's what's around. Well, that's what they have, and they'd rather
buy a free donor vehicle, basically.
Yeah, and they'd rather spend the money on the parts that go into it and make it fun, make it a sleeper, versus buying something that looks like it's meant to be fast, like a big Subaru or a whatever, or a Subaru, as some people would say.
Well, in that kind of theory,
I think going around that way was a little
in that kind of theory. I've
challenge.
got a Ford Ford F350, F250, 1960.
Yeah.
Refrigerator style for anybody who's trying to picture that visually, and I would love, because it's got a motor in it, the motor runs, but I would love to do an electric swap with a small little diesel generator in there. Yeah, and just have this thing have 500 foot-pounds of torque, just to be you pull up to a stoplight, you get this old beat-up rundown Ford. It's still got the rust body on it.
Yeah.
And then you just like smoke the dualies at the back. Like that is my dream.
The stacks going. Pop, pop,
Yeah, you throw a little.
pop.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a friend of mine that built a VW Golf, the old Rabbit, the two-door.
Yeah.
And he built this with a 2.5 liter turbo motor. And the one day, I was still in school at this point, and he was texting me, and we were chatting, and he's cruising down the highway, and he sends me a message saying, "Listen, so guess what I was just doing?" I'm like, "What?" "Well, I had to tap off because of traffic, but I clocked out at 250.
Yeah. Well, didn't Volkswagen themselves create like a Wolfsburg edition of the Rabbit?
They had a company join in with them to
okay,
build it.
like
But it was
like
a twin
Barabbas or something
motor
like
type
that.
of thing, yes.
Yeah.
Now, this guy used to essentially built an M3 killer so that he could essentially, it looks like an old school, just VW Rabbit.
Yeah.
And these guys with these big M3s think they got all this power, and the new cars that come out and everything, and he essentially would leave them in the dust.
Yeah.
And I love those types of videos, those kinds of sleepers and everything like that, because like you have the one where there's two Lambos racing on the highway, and then you see this VW Rabbit just come flying past and just cruising.
Yeah, and that's where you see them turn on the throttle, and the ass end just squats from the power,
Yeah.
and it hooks up, and you're like, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I remember it was like a 1990 Honda Civic, and this is in the Winnipeg street racing scene.
Yeah.
And shout out to the guy who had that car. And I saw it destroy Corvettes, Porsches, Brady Landfill Road, and the Chevrolet Boulevard in Winnipeg. And it was literally like, if the guy was smart because he had tinted windows, but as soon as he rolled down the windows and you could see inside, like there was basically a driver's seat and the rest of it was a fucking engine.
Yeah.
And again, like you saw this thing just squat down from the torque, would suck the body through the suspension, the wheels would hook up, and it was just fucking gone.
Yeah.
And it was in like a 1990 Honda Civic, just a shitty fucking car.
I've always loved sleeper cars.
Oh,
I've always wanted to have a sleeper car. And like there was, cruising around in Albert Street in Regina in the 90s, early 90s. It was just fucking street race. And I didn't have a great car. I had a 1990 Plymouth Laser, same thing, non-turbo. It was, in my mind back in the day, it was fast as fuck, boy, right? And it was a decent car. It handled good. It had good acceleration. So you'd be cruising up and down the strip. You'd checks and you're racing cars here and there at the light. And so there's two stories here from the Albert. One, we're cruising down, right? And this fucking like 76 Camaro, shit brown, pulls up beside us, right? Like this thing barely fucking out. Right? And he rolls down his window and he's like, hey, right? So I roll down the passenger window and he's like, let's go out, let's take the next set of lights out to EBSCO. We'll have a race. I'm like, fuck off. I'm like, I don't have a fucking hope. Right? Like, I know this thing is fucking built. And he's like, come on. He says, I'll start in third. Fuck, whatever. All right, fine, fuck. So we go out to the last set of lights at the McDonald's on the North Albert, right, towards EBSCO. And we're lined up, right? And I'm like, vroom, vroom, bruh, bruh. I'm like, fuck.
yeah.
Light goes green, and I hit the gas, and he waited.
Asshole.
Just fucking, bam! Second bam! And he goes, whoa! Just gone, right?
The visuals on that was Jay was pointing his finger, and the guy next to him went, past him.
Wow.
You're going to have to just set back the audio on that one.
Yeah, I'll have to tune that one down there. And I remembered there was this girl in Regina. Never knew her name. I don't know who she was. She had a Fox body done up. Same thing, right? It was a great car. Sounded...
What year were those? 86 to like 92?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something
Like around then.
in there, yeah.
Okay.
And she had her back window had a little thing etched on the bottom of it. If you can beat me. To my recollection, I don't think anybody ever ate that.
Sorry, I was just
legend
looking at the Fox bodies were 79 to 93, so it was pretty close.
Oh, pretty close.
And legend has it, she's still roaming around, hoping for an eating.
But yeah, no, it was like, talking about the street racing back then, it was just, there was a guy we used to race all the time. He had a Firebird. No, it was that 4th generation body style, the fiberglass front and everything on it. But his was V6 with an automatic. So he'd race me on.
I call it a high school special.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm in like fucking grade 11. That's probably over grade 11. So he's like,
sorry, I just gonna do a name drop here. This reminds me of, I think his name was Nathan Phillips, and his Sunfire.
Oh, dudes that had Sunfires thought they were the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely brings back high school memories there. Sorry, keep going.
Anyways, there was a guy in the Firebird, and he used to try and race. Never beat me off the wall. You know, a little more distance, right? I was a fucking 4-cylinder. He was a V6. He had a little, but he couldn't beat me off the line with the automatic versus. So we're lined up the one day, way down in South Albert. We're fucking revving. We were, I don't know, a couple blocks south of, and light goes green. I fucking dump the clutch. Gone. I'm looking in the mirror. Yeah, fucker, he still can't beat me. Pass his car. Fuck, that was a cop. Lights come on. And I miss the way it used to be with the cops. Because, you know, they were young once. They know what he's like, look, I could tow your car. You know, this is dangerous.
No, you
driving.
can't.
Well, now,
the patrol car
reckless
doesn't have
endangerment
one.
charges are...
It's a huge thing now. But, you know, he was... Look, I'm going to give you a ticket. I know you're racing him, but I get it. So it was, yeah. I actually had to come back from Calgary at one point with SGI.
Had too many points, eh?
I had too many points. And it was funny because unbeknownst to them, I didn't have this information. I was going to school in Calgary out at the time, and they called me back for the drove back Swift Curve. They're like, so we could easily suspend your license right now for actions. However, we have to give you 30 days notice. And in that 30 days, you could just cancel your Saskatchewan license.
Thanks for the tip.
I'm like, fuck, I didn't know that. Right? I'm like, I was panicked. I'm like, fuck, I'm screwed. And then I found out that I wasn't screwed at all. So it was kind of a weird situation there because, and then it was like 6 or 8 months after that. I was done school, but I was still living in Alberta. So because Alberta and Saskatchewan were joined for driver's licenses.
They share their data systems.
So
yeah.
Exactly. So if I transferred my Saskatchewan license to an Alberta license, all my stuff would come with me. Well, the job I had gotten required a driver's app. So I go into Alberta. I need a copy for my employer. Oh, yeah, no problem. Pay it. And she gives me a blank piece of paper.
Because you've only had your license.
Nothing transferred.
Clean record.
I had a clean fucking record for my Alberta driver's license.
And really, all that employer cares about is that, hey, you're going to be good with their vehicle, and that their insurance premiums don't go up because you got a bad record.
Because I got a clean
record. So they were
record.
good. And I'm guessing you never crashed a company vehicle.
Nope, never once.
So then you're good.
Yep.
And going back to my Nathan Phillips story in the Sunfire, I will give him credit, though, because the time he was driving that Sunfire, I was driving my my Yamaha scooter. Yeah, that was my first vehicle because I finally turned 18, so my parents couldn't deny me. I'd purchased a Honda Prelude when I was like 16.
Oh, really?
And then I went to go insure it, and they're like, "Oh, you need your parents' signature because you're under 18." And I was like,
"That's weird."
Sorry, what? Like, I own this vehicle and I can't insure it? Because my parents were like, no, you can't have a vehicle. Even though I'm paying for it and paying for the insurance on my own.
Yeah.
They're like, no. And so then I had to wait till like literally the month I turned 18. And then, so I think it was April actually, but I purchased my my Yamaha scooter. It was a 50 Yamaha BWS scooter.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, I, threw a bigger 70cc conversion kit in it. Performance exhaust, carbon fiber reed valves, clutch kit,
sexy
21 millimeter carburetor, just a few little things like this. And I got that little, now 70cc scooter to do 112 kilometers an hour.
Holy shit.
Which, for something that's legally only supposed to go 50.
How sketchy was that fucking thing?
So, you get a wheelbase of 2 feet. Yeah. Maybe 3. I don't know. Yeah. And the fact that I could do burnouts just on command. Just smoke the shit out. The fact that I could burn that back tire at a drop of a hat.
That's insane.
So, Sunday night cruising in Winnipeg, I remember, some guy again with a similar kind of, I don't know, it was a Honda Civic or a, Chevy Cavalier with a Z24 package or something.
Yeah.
And so the guy's got his, his decently good looking girlfriend in the passenger seat. And so he's revving it up the red light because I'm, first in line. And I kind of give him the nod. And he looks at me and he's like, what the fuck?
on my scooter.
And his girlfriend was laughing up until the point where I fucking peeled out of there. And she's like, you could literally see her look at her boyfriend in just like disbelief and then look in front towards me. And I'm checking all this out because I'm looking backwards as I'm doing this. And yeah, I love that blue scooter.
You should have pulled up next to her window and be like,
well, no, because then it's
Hop
Winnipeg on Portage Avenue. So then you
Get on,
literally
bitch.
you literally hit him at a light less than a kilometer away. And the guy's just like trying to like not look at me. And his girlfriend's just like giving me the smile and kind of half laughing at her boyfriend. And I'm like, that right there, that moment, that was worth it.
That did it. That was, yeah.
But yeah, the only problem with it, because I had a little digital tachometer,
Yeah.
because obviously the real bike didn't have a tack on it. And I would get
which you
that
need
thing.
at 112.
I would get that little, like that bike up to, I think it was like 18,000 RPM.
Holy shit.
Like this is like F1 territory in terms of like,
the hell did you do to it?
I mean, the cylinders only lasted like 6 months. And then they fucking burn out and I'd have to replace it.
Holy shit.
But I also had my dad's friend, Reg, who worked on snowmobiles. He literally like port and polished it. So I had like carbon fiber reed valves, the 21 millimeter carbs, port and polished, performance exhaust, the 70cc kit on it, the clutch pack, like basically everything you could do to turn this thing into a motorcycle, which was completely illegal. In my defense, I did have my motorcycle learner's permit at the time, and I was working towards my motorcycle license. Although legally they would have been able to completely like impound the vehicle and arrest me for driving without a proper license. Although the funny part was in the same month, I got a slow moving violation and a speeding ticket in the same month.
Oh, God.
So the slow moving violation, there was like, I don't know, I was driving down Bishop Grandin, which would be equivalent of like Ring Road in Regina.
Yeah.
And it was like 80K winds. And this bike it doesn't have enough torque.
No.
And then, I think I was near the end of that life cycle in that cylinder, and I was doing maybe like, I don't know, 50, which I'm legally allowed to go, like, that's all I'm supposed to be doing, but I was doing 50 on Bishop Grandin, and the police officer pulled me over, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't think you're supposed to be on this road, and I'm like, I know I'm fucking right, because legally in the province of Manitoba, any road posted 80 and under, you're allowed to travel on. And legally, I'm only supposed to be able to go 50.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a good thing you didn't catch me going faster because that ain't going to give me a ticket for.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was doing, like, 50 kilometers an hour on a road that's meant for 80, perfectly legal, gives me it spends, like, 45 minutes. I'm on my way to university.
Oh, wow.
Spends 45 minutes with me pulled over as he's, like, flipping through the code book, trying to find the regulation to fucking give me a ticket.
Actually give you a ticket.
And even then, I was like, you realize this isn't the right citation. Because I said, well, you better show me exactly what that citation is. And he reads it back to me. And I was like, that's not what this applies to at all. You're completely in the wrong.
Yeah.
He didn't like that statement.
No, they never.
No, they didn't like
it
being corrected in person.
No.
And then like a week and a half later, I got a speeding ticket because I was in like a Assiniboine Park doing like, again, I think exactly the same speed, like 52 kilometers an hour in a park, which is supposed to be like 25 or 30 or something.
Yeah.
So then I hired one of these like points lawyers or whatever. I didn't want the points on my license. Whatever the ticket, like, yeah, okay, it's $200 or $150 or something. So literally he goes into the judge and he's like, well, like a slow moving violation, a speeding ticket, I'm pretty sure they balance out. And he ended up getting me off both those tickets. I don't even think I had to pay anything. I think he got me off completely. So his lawyer fees were more than what both those tickets were in terms of dollar value, but I didn't end up with the points on my license. But
Yeah.
that was the summer of the scooter.
The summer of the scooter.
I believe it's in Thailand where they take the scooters and they customize the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Where they do full on turbocharge, they drag race them, they street race them.
Those little fucking river
Those are
boats.
no longer 70 or 50 cc's. Like
yeah,
they
they're
throw
like
on some
180 cc's.
Yeah.
No, they go wild.
Yeah.
They do custom paint jobs.
Yeah, they do the same with those boats on the fucking rivers too.
Why?
I saw one of the,
those
like,
ones.
a
Yeah,
fucking 12 valve Cummins.
Yeah, on the back of like a little wooden boat that's like 12 inches
like
wide.
8-inch prop. Yeah, and he just fucking wham. So
in Louisiana,
Anyways.
it's the pontoon.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we've been going for like 2.5 hours, guys.
It's a massive bullshit.
Yeah, we haven't talked about a single fucking thing, but it is Valentine's Day. We should probably be getting back to the wives. So I'm gonna call it for tonight. I think we had a great conversation. There's a lot of interesting topics.
Good fun.
There's a lot of stuff on here I'd like to, continue touching on or, mentioning it later. There's a lot more stuff in the Egypt stuff we could get into. I mean, reminiscing about fucking street racing, which is
Be responsible.
great.
We have never street raced a day in our lives.
Or we're not your parents. Do whatever you want. Anyways, I think it was good. I had fun tonight. It was good getting back with everybody again. Hopefully 2 weeks from now. Not going to lie. It's going to be at least 2 weeks. We can get back together. We'll have at least 4 of us here again. Continue on with our usual typical bullshit. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye, Zico.